Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Davis, and you're watching Conversations in Pop Culture. And yes, I am skinless like an Ashley. And I do want to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by my friends over at Pocket Jack Comics, and they're going to a local comics store near you. And right now, you can check out previews of their new comic, Guinevere and the Divinity Factory, and Palace of the Golden Princesses, which is coming to shops in March/April. And I gotta say, the covers are awesome, and they are a little bit sexy. So definitely go bug your comic shop for them because I do not think you'll be disappointed. And if you go to their website and sign up for their email list, you could get a free preview copy sent to you, PDF style, so you can actually try it before you buy it, as well as my friends over from The Living Dead Girl, which just got into a little bit of controversy that has been solved with Dan Mendoza. And it is done by Jason Connolly and Greg Bo Watson. And it's a great book, and they're good friends of mine. And this is the first time in 20 years Greg Bo is actually designing and having major input into a character. So it's very cool. And if anybody knows Greg Bo, he did work for Marvel. He's done some work for DC. He's killing it on the indies, did some work for Zenoscope. So it's very cool that somebody's actually designing a character in 20 years. But enough about that, because I have with me comic creator and I guess media personnel, Gordon Holmes. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Andrew. Excited to be here.
Yeah, no, you're fascinating. And I have no right to be interviewing you. We're going to start off with that. I have no right to be interviewing you. You've done way cooler things than I've done. And that stuff includes wrestling, doing stuff with Survivor. Obviously we're going to talk about Boston Rob, which is going to be great. And you have a comic, The Bad Guy. But I kind of tipped my hat a little bit about what you've done, things of that nature. I think you're going to educate us a little bit more on that. But why don't you give a little background on who you are? Because I kind of threw some stuff out there that's on the wall, and you're going to connect it, I think, for me.
Absolutely. Gordon Holmes. I have a very diverse background, my friend. Out of high school, some buddies of mine became professional wrestlers, or pretended we were professional wrestlers. We kind of were self-trained. If you're a fan of the independent world, you probably know the name Mike Quackenbush. He ran Shakara out of Philadelphia.
I interviewed Mike.
Okay, well, we went to high school together, and we, trained to be professional wrestlers. Eventually, we parted ways, and I ended up at the school of Afa Anawahe, one of the members of the Wild Samoans. So I'm Samoan trained. So a kind of a member of the bloodline. If they need me, they should give me a call. But yeah, I did that throughout college. That's how I helped pay for college as an independent professional wrestler up in the Northeast. Not a particularly good one. Did not have a particularly good physique. I subscribe to like the Jushin Liger school of we don't need to show any skin in this costume, do we? So it was basically like a singlet and like long sleeves. Like you could maybe see some skin. My hands were visible. Maybe between like my knee pads and my kick pads were visible. But yeah, I did that for 3 years. Very much in the school of that era, wanting to be like Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. I'm pretty sure I did a super kick. I'm pretty sure I did a sharpshooter as some of my signature holds. But yeah, I did that for a long time. And then you mentioned Survivor. This sounds ridiculous. I'm one of the most, if you're familiar with the CBS television reality show Survivor, that's been on for 20 plus years. I am one of the most prominent Survivor reporters in the world, and that's like the dumbest possible lower third you can have. Like that's like this much fame in this world. But yeah, so I've been on location to Survivor to do pregame press. That means interviewing the cast, interviewing the crew, interviewing the host, Jeff Probst. I've been to Gabon, Africa, Nicaragua, the Philippines, Samoa, Cambodia, Fiji over the years. I do exit press. We do every Friday. We do a power rankings game with former competitors. And like you said, I published a comic book recently, a graphic novel. Very much an idea I'd had in my brain for years and years. Had written a script about 15 years ago and didn't know what to do with it. Took it to some of my friends and made short films. It was about professional wrestling. And they were like, this is great. We can't film it. It's like who can afford an arena and wrestlers and fans or whatever. So in my spare time, if I had my druthers, I wouldn't wrestle. I wouldn't talk about Survivor. I just draw. That's literally all I'd want to do. So in my spare time, I started doodling it. And next thing you knew, I kind of had an outline for it. I turned it into a comic, and Okay.
We're gonna talk about it.
Okay, yeah. So if I'm going too long, like feel free to
I want to talk about the wrestling stuff a little bit
Yeah,
first.
yeah, yeah. Let's do it.
Obviously, the Wild Samoans are kind of, I think, the OGs of the bloodline.
Mhm.
I think they've handed it over to Roman. But what was this like to kind of train? Because this had to be what, at least 20 years ago, around
Yeah,
there?
this was around 1997, 98. Yeah, it was really interesting because, like I said, we had kind of trained ourselves in a park to be professional wrestlers. So, like, we watched enough to know kind of what to do, but there's all kinds of intricacies. And it was a really interesting situation where, it was kind of wrestling is a very shady business, and AFA's organization was going to host a show near us, and we wanted to be on the card. And the person in charge of it, who wasn't AFA, was like, "Look, if you guys sell, X amount of tickets, you can be on the card," which is kind of like an old Carney trick because the plan was when we sold these tickets, we'd show up, and then he'd be like, "Get the hell out of here! Thanks for the money, bye." And that's exactly what he did. But AFA, and AFA was very much like, "I don't know you guys, I can't put you on my show." Which you should have done, 100% should have done. And then a couple months later, we had gotten involved with an organization that was working with AFA, and then met him through meeting him this way was kind of like the proper way to do it. And he's like, "You kids again," and was very much like, "Look, come to my school, show me what you've got, and then we'll see what we can do." So we went to back when it was in Allentown, Pennsylvania. We wrestled in front of him, and he took us in, and he's like, "Look, you guys obviously love this, are good at it, but you just need learn your basics need work. You need things cleaned up." He's like, "Look, come to my school. I'm not going to charge you. And then when you go out, you could say you're my guys," which is amazing. Because like I said, especially the wrestling world, especially in the 90s, and like, I think it's more young guys interested in comic books and video games now, which is awesome. I'm fully on board with this. But back then it was very carny and very cutthroat. So AFA was just amazing to us. He took us under his wings. Like, love the guy, love his family. Like maybe the only honest person I worked with my entire time there. So yeah, absolutely. The OGs, like, nothing but respect.
Let's actually talk about this because obviously wrestling has changed.
Mhm.
And I've interviewed a lot of wrestlers on the indies, and I've interviewed, obviously LGBTQ wrestlers, straight wrestlers. I've interviewed black wrestlers, minority wrestlers, the whole bunch, and just
Mhm.
regular Caucasian wrestlers. And the reason why I say this is that everybody has a story, and the minorities a lot of times have stories of being mistreated, even in 2015, going back. And I think, obviously, I think it's better in 2015 than it was in 1997. I really think that that's a fair statement about wrestling, especially in training. But, it used to be that some guy would have the gym on the weekends and he would chop everybody in the line. It'd be $20 and say, "Come back next week." And then that was sort of the training. And, it's a very interesting thing that you kind of met somebody who was sort of looking out for you
Yes.
to some degree
Yeah.
and saying, "I don't want these 2 kids or these 4 kids, these 5 kids to be fucked over and hurt somebody in a ring, let alone they seem to be decent people." Because I don't know about you, but there's been plenty of people in this industry, just on a podcast, who have looked out for me and have helped me. And for whatever reason, maybe they saw something, maybe they've been in that situation. Eddie Kingston's a good example. Eddie Kingston carried an interview for me because I was brand new, 12 in. And Eddie didn't have to carry the interview, but he did. So, I don't know how you feel about that, but that's how I view it.
Oh yeah, and everybody on the independent scene has a story of being screwed out of a payment. Unfortunately, the women of the industry have way worse stories than that, than being, not receiving the money they were promised. Yeah, it's a very shady business. It has its roots in carny culture to begin with. So AFA absolutely was, like I said, the most honest person I ever worked with in the industry. Cannot say enough good things about him. But yeah, like a funny example of maybe you talk about people being treated differently. I remember working one of his shows, and there was a woman who worked with him named Katra, who her gimmick was kind of like a China-esque, kind of like a female muscle kind of character. And I remember her and I were very good friends outside of the ring. Like whenever we saw each other, it was all hugs and high fives. And it was the first time I ever ended up working with her. And her whoever was her wrestler threw me out of the ring, and she was supposed to rough me up and throw me back in. And she kicked my ass. Like I don't know if you're not familiar with wrestling. No, we pull our punches and we stomp our feet. We're not trying to hurt each other. She gave me lumps on my head. And I remember getting backstage and just being like, I know she's a good worker. What happened? And we finally talked. She's like, oh, I have to rough guys up or they won't sell for me. Meaning, if I don't hit them hard, they're not going to pretend like I'm hurting them because they don't want to look weak in front of a woman. And I was like, I will sell all day long for you. Don't kick my ass ever again. So yeah, it was an interesting time. It's the weirdest career of all time. Like there's like nobody like when I forget my car keys or my wallet because I took steel chairs to the head, which was okay back then. There's nobody has stories like this. Nobody has boxes of old spandex wrestling gear in the basement except for pro wrestlers. So it was definitely an interesting time.
It's interesting because if you've interviewed a bunch of people on a card and they know that you're there, it's very interesting, especially when a wrestler goes says hi to you right before their match. People look at you and they're like, "Who's this kid?" Like, it's very interesting. And then also sometimes a wrestler will tell you to sit in a certain place because he has certain people and his fans there. So I met a lot of interesting people when I was down in DC because I made a bunch of friends with wrestlers, and they're like, yeah, you're gonna be sitting in my section, and then it's a very cool thing when that happens.
Yeah,
Um,
I used to do that. My parents hated wrestling even before I got involved with it. And my mother once hitched a ride up with one of my girlfriend at the time. I almost said one of my girlfriends. I only ever had one girlfriend at a time. And I made it a point to do the most violent stuff in front of her. Like she was sitting, like, make sure, like, if you're gonna hit me with something, make sure it happens in front of this lady. And she was so mad. Like the whole ride home, it was like, how do we get him to quit? But yeah, never happened.
so even going further into this, because obviously you wrestled for a very short time on the Indies, and then you either got out or the Indies changed, or it was time to not leave your boots, but take a long break. We'll leave it at that because you never leave wrestling. You never leave wrestling.
No.
You just choose not to continue in the ring. It's a nice way to put it. As a fan, I will never leave wrestling as a fan. I have no desire to enter a ring. None. No, thank you. You guys stay on your side. I'll stay on mine. We have an arrangement.
Well, I'm sorry to cut you off, but you bring up an interesting point about like wrestlers don't retire. Wrestlers die, but nobody retires. What happened to me was I started to get these like horrible headaches every time I would wrestle. And I was in college at the time, and this is like I was small for the industry then. I'm 6 foot tall, and I was small for the industry. Now I might do all right, but I kept getting like these headaches after every match, and I always knew my brain was going to take me further than my wrestling career was. So I ended up wrestling a tag team match and said to my partner, "It's like, look, I'm really having trouble. Let me go out there and take like a bump, and let me see how it goes." And sure enough, like got to the back and just had this like I knew it had to be it. That had to be it. Like I knew I had to stop. But years later, and ended
Let's
up.
actually talk.
What's that?
So sorry to cut you off, but there is a point where you as a wrestler and as a physical athlete, because let's just even go beyond wrestling, where you gotta say enough is enough. I mean, there because, and I'm not saying this is for everybody, because some people, I'm gonna use the nicest way I could put this. Some people say, I want to die in the ring. Yeah, I'm meant to do this, and I'm meant to die in the wrestling ring. There are people who are like that, and I'm not going to stop you. It's a free country. At least I'm in America and you're in America. It's a free country in America. But the point is, though, is that it's also important to say, look, my brain is going to take me further, and there's more to this than that. I mean, we were speaking about John Cena before we went live. I think John Cena has come to the conclusion that, yeah, he could probably continue to wrestle and do well, but I think he's also realized that his brain and his brand and things outside of wrestling, like acting and doing, I think he's going to be hosting a Roku show soon, and that's coming in the later half of this year, and some bunch of other stuff that he does is going to take him to the next step. outside of wrestling. And I think he's come to the conclusion, The Rock's come to that conclusion too, in many ways. And I think it's a very complicated position. And I don't think it's just a wrestling thing. There gets a point in everything where you're like, okay, I got to stop doing A because there's B, C, and D after A.
Yeah, but it was very much a thing where I didn't have any illusions about making a career out of wrestling. This was in the heyday of WWE, WCW, ECW. But again, like my size, my height, wasn't, I was 6 foot tall. I wasn't in like particularly great shape or anything like that. Just didn't see it happening. But we talk about how wrestlers never really retire because there is a lure to, like, I remember years later, I was visiting the school and a buddy of mine was in the ring, putting the trainees through the motions. And my thing was I was really good at, like, I was an aerialist, I did flips and stuff like that, but also very good at submission holds. And he wanted me to show somebody some hold. And I was like, I haven't been in the ring in a while. I was like, come on, you won. And I hopped in the ring and put the guy in the clover leaf or whatever it was. And then he was like, take a bump. And I'm like, I don't want. He's like, come on. And I did, and I felt okay. And then, like, one of my things, again, being a Shawn Michaels wannabe, did a kip up, hit the rope, started like playing with the guys, and ended up like that whole day, like being like, why did I ever stop doing this? This is so much fun. I love this so much. And then the next day, every fiber of my soul was aching and in pain. I was like, okay, this is why we don't do this anymore. But yeah, it's addictive. Like, that's why nobody has ever actually retired. Even Shawn Michaels, who was the gold standard of this guy's never coming back, still came back. So
and obviously, I mean, wrestling is wrestling right now. Wrestling is the best it's ever been. I think. I think we are in. I think the golden age, in many ways, was kind of the '90s, and I think we're in the platinum age of wrestling right now. I really do, because AEW is good, the Indies are good, WWE is fantastic. I mean, wrestling is massively profitable. I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I like the Netflix deal a lot.
oh yeah, I like, I used to work at a cable company, so it breaks my heart to say this, but like, the second Raw goes to Netflix, I don't know if I need cable anymore. Obviously, I believe SmackDown is going to USA, but can I catch, like, SmackDown isn't day of watching for me. It hasn't been for a long time. So yeah, I like the deal. It's a different. It's so weird. Like, everything switching around in AEW, and where's it going to end up? And it's a really, and it's interesting to call this the platinum era. It's like, I think storytelling wise, I think you're right. Like, which is like, I find myself so invested. They stumbled recently with Cody giving up the WrestleMania spot to Roman Reigns.
We're gonna get into this.
Okay, I'm sorry, I keep jumping the gun.
This is I had to end a friendship because somebody made something political when it wasn't political, and I said, what is WWE? And the person wanted to talk about independent contractors and how Vince it leans right, and I was like, you're missing what WWE is. WWE is Disney. All they're doing is selling fun, and they're selling a good time. And WWE, for every 7-year-old, the customer is the parent, because when they see the smile on their 7-year-old cheering for John Cena or Seth Rollins or Cody Rhodes, that parent is like, man, this $100 ticket was well worth it. And WWE really fumbled with Vince. Horrible situation. And they pivoted. Unbelievable. And they stumbled, flipped, and parkoured into probably one of the best storylines that's ever been done. And God bless them. However they did that, whoever they made a deal with and sold their soul to, God bless WWE, because they have me so interested now in this bloodline, Cody Rhodes, The Rock fiasco.
Yeah, I might argue that WWE does once WWE figures out what this generation wants, they're off to the races. A good example is, like, in the '80s, Hulk Hogan was the big guy because, like, America's a winner and we're all winners. And then in the '90s, like, in this, every bit of TV was extreme. So of course the idea that, Steve Austin can flip his boss the middle finger and drink a beer and kick his ass, like, gets over. And it seems like for the longest time they couldn't figure out how to make good guys. like, John Cena and Batista started to get popular, and then they're like, push them to the moon. And then once they do, people are like, well, you're feeding me this, and I don't want to be fed. I want to like what I like. You're a big corporation. It's why, like, Daniel Bryan was a great example of somebody who the corporation didn't like. I don't mean the Triple H corporation. I mean the actual corporation. Somebody that felt organic. And I think what it is, and I saw an interesting piece on this was, not to get political, but like the way the youth of America feels today is that like they're never going to win. They feel like they're never going to own a home. They feel like they're never going to, be able to afford the things they want. So with Roman Reigns on top, being this like dominant champion for the first time in forever, there's this like Justice League of popular guys that are like trying their best to figure it out. Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Jey Uso, Seth Rollins, when he's, to some degree, like all these guys are desperately like the system's against them. And that's something that maybe this generation can really, really relate to. So if that's what they're doing, it's brilliant because it's worked. Because like, I think it was at War Games, you just saw this like legion of good guys, and WWE had the hardest time making good guys for so long. And now there's just like an embarrassment of good guys. Like even last year, everybody's like, put the title on Sammy, put the title on Cody, put the title on Jay, because like people wanted to see it for the first time. They wanted to see a good guy win, so that when they finally do see it, it's going to be so cathartic. So that when it was going to be The Rock, and everybody's like, this isn't what we want. This is, another corporate entity winning again. So the fact that they could see that was a mistake, and the way they've pivoted has just been genius. Like I love it. I can't get enough of it.
I'll be honest. Logan Paul in WWE is a great pivot.
Oh my God. In a million years, who would have thought? Like every time I see him, I get mad because he is better.
What's crazy is that. What are you saying? You go.
He is better in 8 matches than I was in 300. He's so stinking good. And I don't mean like in ring, but if you go back and watch the Elimination Chamber, him drawing on the pod is freaking brilliant. Like if you're not a wrestling fan, they make them stand behind these like plexiglass pods. And he's like drawing like horns on his own head and like taunting the other. It's like, I hate him as a human being, but as an entertainer, as a professional wrestler in particular, bravo.
I love Logan Paul as a human being. See, let me tell you why I love Logan Paul as a human being. Because Logan Paul doesn't need to be in WWE. He doesn't have to be there. No. He's making $5 million a year. That's nothing to Logan Paul. That's nothing.
Is that all energy drink money? Should we be in the energy drink biz, Andrew?
I mean, his prime energy drink is probably worth like 300 mil. His shares is because he owns, I think, 10% of KSI owns 10%. They don't own the whole thing. They own like 20% combined. But I think collectively it's like 150 mil a piece. And when that thing gets sold, they're gonna be exiting out of big money. Yeah. And then Impulse is a big thing, and he's got endorsement deals. His crypto project is a problem. Not thrilled with him. He gives crypto a bad name, but we all get a mess up or two. It's all right. But he's making $5 million in WWE. That's nothing. That's nothing compared to what he is worth. That is nothing. And he wants to be there. And he has given back because he had Triple H on Impulsive. He's had Randy Orton on. He's had John Cena on. He's had a few other people on, and, obviously he's done some bad things. Okay. We don't need to mention what he's done, but obviously created a rift with The Rock, but he's given back to that company way more than what they're paying him. Yeah. In the ring. And even on this show, the fact that you have John Cena, Randy Orton, and you're promoting WWE and you're showing the United States title on a platform that is not WWE and giving it massive media that millions of people are seeing, that's better for the company than anything else. That is worth way more than $5 million. Yeah. And that's why I respect Logan Paul and I like him a lot. I didn't like him a lot before, but I really think the guy has done a lot of good for that company. Yeah. And for my stock. So that's all I care about.
My old college roommate.
I bought WWE at $9 a share, everybody. $9 a share. When people said you're insane, and
it probably wasn't insane back then, but good on you for hanging on to that. My college roommate and my daughter's godfather has a teenage daughter, and occasionally we'll go over there to watch the premium live events. And it's interesting to watch it with somebody. I don't have a lot of interaction with teenagers, so to watch it with a teenager, and she adores him. I think, I'm no spring chicken. So it is interesting to see, you know, I, I worked at Comcast, so it's tough for them to appreciate an internet celebrity, right? That's a tough sell to a cable company. But there are YouTube shows that do better numbers than you know NBC primetime. That's just the way the world works now. More people probably watch Hot Ones, than watch Country Fire or whatever's on CBS on Friday nights. That's just the world we live in. So it's just a matter of these people are celebrities, and people my age might have trouble realizing that. And my challenge was selling esports to those people. The idea that somebody watches somebody else play a video game is insane to a certain part of the media landscape. But just to have him have that kind of visibility with a younger generation, makes the product look cool. It is hilarious though to watch her watch it because she's in it it's more like who's attractive. So you can ask Drew McIntyre apparently is it. He's the guy. Not shocking. He's a looker. But it is interesting to get the 16-year-old girl's opinion on the WWE roster. Doesn't care for CM Punk, which my understanding is if you get to know him, he's a charming guy. So.
Oh man, CM Punk. I don't think he's gonna make it to SummerSlam.
The poor guy. He's so rickety. He's so straight edge. It's like I'm not encouraging anybody to get on the juice, but anything to hold that
Not even that. It's
rickety old body together.
You know what? I just don't. He's a great heel, and it's funny because he said he was going to do everything that he wanted to do. But Cody did everything that CM Punk wanted to do. Cody left WWE, left real money on the table, then wrestled on a show that had 100 people, didn't care, had a mortgage to pay, then wrestled for Evolve, then wrestled for Bound for Glory, then did his own show at AEW that now has a plaque outside the stadium. Then he was on New Japan's biggest show, and he did the Major Four in a year. And then he basically helped founded a company, and then he left that company to go back home to make money and come back. And then he won the Royal Rumble twice in a row. God bless him. He's done everything that CM Punk wanted to do.
Yeah. I can't imagine, for somebody, especially who came up in the system, Cody never wrestled on the indies. He was Dusty Rhodes' kid. He went immediately to developmental, and then next thing you know, he's Bob Holly's tag team partner. So to leave the safety and literally everything for this lifestyle of
living, to give up 2 to 3 million.
Yeah.
I don't think people understand what that I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
I know what it looks like to give up $500.
Yeah.
So I know what that looks like. But to give up 2 to 3 million safety? I mean, did you watch the documentary of Cody? Yep. He's pouring whiskey and then he's topping off with Gatorade, trying to get fired.
But to never and maybe he romanticized the indies, but to live out of a suitcase out of your car for $25 and a hot dog in front of 12 people in a VFW hall, it's tough. So he deserves all the credit in the world for everything except that tattoo on his neck. For that he deserves some serious somebody said he has a chest tattoo on his neck and a neck tattoo on his chest, which I think that's probably the most accurate description for.
It's a little weird. That's a little weird. His neck tattoo. I get that that's kind of his symbol, and I get it, but not really, dude. You could have put it on your arm.
Especially for someone who wears so many suits. He looks great. He's the only guy that wears a suit, and he's got this big NASCAR logo popping out. It's a Transformer had an affair with made in the USA Lex Luger. It's a choice. Cody. It was a choice. We respect. Hey man, we respect the hell out of you leaving the company and making undeniable to whatever. I don't remember the catchphrase, but
I like the dream on his chest. I like that.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. And he should just stop there. That would have been fine. We would have had questions. We would have said, you could have put it somewhere else. Maybe it would have been a better place, but we're okay with this.
Yeah.
You're not CM Punk. You can't pull it off. I'm sorry.
That was a choice. But if Brandy's cool with it, then I'm cool with it. That's as long as Brandy's happy, I'm happy.
But it only matters if he beats Roman. That's really the only justification here, is if he beats Roman, which leads you to my next question, is that, I mean, we know Bailey's going to win. I mean, we know that. That's not hard.
Right.
WWE would be really, really dumb if they didn't let Bailey win. Because guess where Bailey goes if she doesn't win? AEW, without a doubt. In order to keep Bailey, she's got to win. In order to keep Drew, he has to win. To keep Cody, they don't need to.
No.
Cody can't go back to AEW anytime soon.
Well, now that the angle is going to be, there's the tag team match, and that they're definitely going to lose to set up Bloodline rules at the main event of Mania. And I'm a Philadelphia guy, so I'm not sure if I'm going to night 1 or night 2. I can only do one or the other, but I haven't figured out which. There in my brain, I envision the end of Endgame, where Cody's like he's on one knee and his shield is shattered in half, and he gets up and he tightens that shield, and here's Roman and like all the Bloodline, and then you hear on your left, and it's Jey Uso, or it's sorry to spoil Endgame. It's Sami Zayn, it's Kevin Owens, it's Seth Rollins, it's everybody the Bloodline has wronged over the years come to his aid in this epic battle, right? And Cody does it, and the world explodes because how cathartic! What an amazing job they've done with Roman Reigns. The idea that someone would because when it looked like it was going to be Roman against The Rock, I'm like, if The Rock's the one to end this streak, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Because story is so important to me, and basically they built it up to whoever finally beats him is the guy. And they blew it with Brock Lesnar. They made Brock Lesnar an unbeatable monster and then had him lose to Goldberg in like 90 seconds. So whoever does this is someone who should need it. And Cody is someone this puts him way over the top. The thing that scares the hell out of me, though, is they got to be gunning for Roman Rock at 41. And if they do that, is somebody going to pretend that they need, let's just do it another year. That way Roman can beat Hulk Hogan's record or whatever they would want to do. So in my heart and soul, it's like, yeah, it's got to be Cody. But a little bit in the back of my brain, it's like maybe they'll hold off. But I could just imagine Philadelphia rioting if that's the case, tearing the Lincoln Financial Field to the ground if Cody doesn't win that.
Well, it wouldn't be much of a loss because the Eagles need to rebuild anyway.
The stadium's gorgeous, though. In their defense, the stadium's really nice. But yeah,
the Eagles won me a lot of money because I did not put money on them. I put money on Tampa, and I put a bunch of money on Tampa. And oh my God, was I excited! But it wasn't that hard. That playoff game was a disaster. That playoff game was horrible, and it was the Eagles were pathetic on offense. Tampa Bay was okay, but it was like, what was it like? They scored 2 touchdowns, and for legitimately 25 minutes, nobody did anything. And then I finally, what happened is they had to put the 1 yard line. And I'm like, Tampa's going to get a safety.
I know. My thing is, I grew up in St. Louis, so I don't really have Philadelphia rooting interests. I like the Eagles. I like the Phillies. I like the Sixers. I like the Flyers, but I don't love them. Like if they lose, it doesn't ruin my day. If the St. Louis Cardinals lose, it ruins my day. But there's one guy I hate who is like such a hometown fan that a little bit of me, whenever the Eagles or the Phillies lose, I'm like, good. I know this is ruining this guy's day, and I'm okay with that. I'm not above being a bitter Betty, so that's just what I'm saying.
My thing is that I gamble, and the Eagles are decent sometimes.
Sure.
And I'm just trying to make some money. That's all this is. So I'm a Giants fan. So I like the Giants too, because for the most part, if they play 17 games, 14 of them they're going to lose. So you bet $5. You realize you're going to lose 15, but the other games you're going to make money. So you pick and choose.
Are you okay betting against your team, or you always bet for your team?
I mean, it's hard, but then I look at the bank account. I'm like, oh, okay, so I feel better. Afterwards.
I guess that's the move. If there's a game you're really worried about, bet on the opposite of what you want. So if it doesn't go your way, at least I won some money. Maybe that's the move.
So I'll say this though. So I am a Mets fan, but if the Mets are playing the Braves, I just sit it out. Sit it out. So I could bet against the Mets if they're playing the Dodgers, right? Because it's not personal. But if they're playing the Phillies, I can bet against the Mets. unless Senga or Quintana is pitching, because Senga's a beast of a pitcher. The guy just is untouchable as a pitcher. So I'm like, every time Senga pitches, he wins for the most part. So it doesn't matter who they're playing. But I'll bet on the Braves if they're playing the Phillies, no problem. But I won't bet on the Braves or the Mets if they're playing each other.
See, what ended up happening to me was, again, I'm a huge St. Louis Cardinals fan. But what I ended up doing was I would get so worked up during a playoff game that I would just be miserable. So, and this is awful. Like, I'm to the point now where if the Cardinals are playing a playoff game at 7, I will put my phone away until like midnight, not watch the game. And then at midnight, hit a button on my phone and either, hooray, we won, or, well, we lost. What are you going to do? Like, it saves me. Like I have a kid. Like, I can't have a heart attack over, a bunch of guys I don't know playing a kid's game. But it's so embarrassing. Fortunately, like, since I've had my daughter, that's kind of like the thing that, like, because when you have a kid, I don't know if you have kids, but you have, like, your time vanishes.
I don't have any kids yet.
Okay,
I'm working on it. But I'm enjoying it while I'm
working. It's awesome. Your free time vanishes, and I think one of the things that definitely vanished was my baseball. Like, I don't have time to sit and watch 3 hours.
I'll explain. I really enjoy Sunday. So from 1 o'clock to about 11, I do all my video stuff of uploading and handling things and scheduling because I have all this content already built. I just need time to do it. So I legitly prep up all week and I will have like 30 videos that have to get uploaded. So because I'm able to watch the game and I do it, I just use Sunday while watching football. And I'm watch a Giants game, but then if the Eagles are playing at 4 o'clock and the Giants play at 1, I don't care. I'm just watching football. And so I take a very different approach because it makes me stop from doing anything else. And sometimes I'm not even gambling on it. I just want to watch. I have no interest in beyond just watching a good football game.
I'm so sad hearing you talk about having time from 1 to 11. Oh my God. I like it. My daughter still takes naps, but like they're getting shorter and shorter. And it got to the point the other day where we just gotten my daughter down and I wanted to grab food and get back to my office to get some stuff done. And my wife, Lindsay, she's like, "Oh, I wanted to tell you something." I'm like, "What?" And she starts telling me something about, like, we watched the show The Good Doctor. And she was like, "Oh, well, that actor." And she starts telling me the story about this actor. I'm like, "Oh, this is the most precious time. I don't have time to hear about this actor. Let me get to my office." Oh boy. So yeah, enjoy your free time while you have it. Don't get me wrong. She's going to grow up. Eventually, in a couple of years, she's going to have no time for me, my daughter, and I'll have all the time in the world to get back to my stuff. But like, that is the warning I did not get from other parents. Was that
I build in time and I force myself to use my time wisely. So I purposely schedule, and then I get like 6 months in, like legitly football season scheduled me till July of my content. So every day at like 3 o'clock, I'm releasing a video on YouTube because that was all scheduled while watching football and making money. It's amazing. It's amazing. And then I took that money and then I invested in the stock market. It's paying me dividends. So it's a system, guys. I'm slowly going to make money from YouTube while gambling on football, while doing something else. And then that becomes passive income. So we take a very relaxing position and maybe open up a beer or two, but we'll leave that as a mystery item behind this thing, and I won't reveal it because I'm not woo. Yeah, the way you enjoyed that beer was great. But that's my point, is that I multitask.
Okay.
So I DWI, drinking while investing. But I want to back out of wrestling. So you think Cody's going to go over?
He should. I'd love it. Boy, another year of Roman vanishing, except for, like, popping his head up every 3 months. It's time. It's time. And I love Roman. I love the bloodline. I do worry if he loses the title, if he loses some mystique. I'm sure they're eyeing that Rock Roman match at 41. Does not need the belt. So yeah, I think Cody, like I said, it's hard to make a good guy today, and they've done it. Like, Cody's like the real deal. Like, he, like, I was of the belief that, like, he would show up, he would last 3 pay-per-views, and the fans would turn on him because that's what they do with like white meat baby faces, but they've stuck with him. So again, I'd like to see it. I think he's a great
See,
face of the company.
I think they stuck with him because he's the real deal. And I think with CM Punk, they didn't, because CM Punk's not the real deal anymore. He used to be, but that's what it is. But I digress. But I do want to talk about Survivor before we get to your comic, because I don't know. What was this? What was this? Are you part of
Survivor,
the bloodline now?
What's that? No, I'm the Rock bloodline holding up the weird L. I don't know if you've seen that. What are you doing, Rock? Come on, get with the program.
So obviously you've done like a bunch of stuff with Survivor, and you have a bunch of stories. You obviously have interviewed pretty much a bunch of people from Survivor. I don't know if you've interviewed everybody, but you probably interviewed Tony, who won Winners at War. Obviously Boston Rob. I think you've interviewed Amber. You probably done Ethan as well back in the day. Tyson as well, right? Rupert, probably Sandra.
Yep.
So what is this like? Because obviously you kind of have broken down Survivor on every single level. And I probably watched your videos, but I didn't know it was you.
Yeah, it's basically everybody from Survivor 17 on, and the one we're watching right now is Survivor 46. So it's going on 15 years. Basically, I either go on location for pregame to interview them before the game. I do that about half the time. You know, they shoot two seasons a year. And then once somebody's voted out of the game, like on Wednesday, someone's going to get voted out. On Thursday, they come talk to me. So have talked to, with the exception of like a time or two I was sick, have interviewed everybody within that time span. And because they bring players back, that includes a lot of the big names. You mentioned Rupert, you know, he's a little before my time, but they brought him back for Blood versus Water and Heroes and Villains. So yeah, with my great white whale, the biggest name, I guess the 2 biggest names I never interviewed were Richard Hatch and Rudy Bosch from that first season, are probably the biggest names I never got to have a chat with. So, but yeah, I was a fan like before I started doing it. So when I was given the opportunity to go to Gabon to do this, I jumped, and it really changed my career. I worked for Comcast and was part of the commerce team working on shopping and dating and autos and travel and all these things that made money for a website. And then the guy who manages the TV and entertainment team was a big Survivor fan and was given a chance by CBS to go to Africa, but he had a wedding. He couldn't do it. So he offered it to every member of the TV and entertainment team. Hey, who wants to go to Africa and sleep in a tent? And they were all like, no, hard pass. And I had done some freelance entertainment journalism around the TV show Lost. I had been to Hawaii. I had interviewed the cast. I'd taken photos of the set. I'd been out there. So he's like, you've done this. Do you want to do it? And I was like, hell yes. And had a blast. And like because it's almost like summer camp being out there. Like you are there to do a job, to do your interviews. But then other than that, you're in this amazing location, meeting a crew from all over the world. The host, Jeff Probst, is like a really nice guy. Like it's really just a fantastic like family.
And also, community. You're not being treated as a contestant.
And I get to eat. I get to eat all I want. We get to run immunity challenges for fun. That's something they kind of insist us doing, so we can go back and be like, this is really hard. This is exhausting, and it is. The very first time I was out there in Africa, I got an amazing sunburn. I got bug bites like crazy, and I got bit by a leech. We run an immunity challenge, and it was the first challenge that season where you're hooked to like 5 people, and you run through a field, and then you wade through a swamp, and then you're up and over all these different obstacles, and you have to dig up puzzle pieces. So we got our asses kicked. When we were out there, we score off against a group called the Dream Team. They're a bunch of it's the best summer job you can have. It's a bunch of young, fit, beautiful 20-year-olds who all they do all day is run the challenges to make sure they're fair and safe. And they kicked our ass. But we were done, and we're walking back up, to where the cars are. And a guy taps me on the shoulder, and he's like, "You have a leech on the back of your knee. Turn around." This leech like just throbbing. And the guy had a machete. He's like, "You want me to take care of it?" And the people at CBS PR, whose job it is to keep us alive, was like, "No way. Get to medical. Are you kidding me? No way." And I'm like, I'm sure he knows what he's doing. And he just took a machete and just lopped it. It was like, it was not a big deal at all. But I still have a suction mark to this day. I have my skin is like tissue paper. I actually cut my hand once washing a dish with a sponge. So I'm the last person that should be going to any exotic locale and any kind of Survivor adventure because I come back a million cuts, a million bruises from these immunity challenges. But yeah, it's been an amazing adventure. I met some great people. We do a power rankings every week, and Owen Knight from 44, 43, Franny Marion from 44 have become like friends. Like Parvati was at my wedding. Like just had like the weirdest chance to meet.
I love her. I love how evil she is. I like what season did she make everybody like prompts and they all cross their like things behind their back? That was great.
Yeah, that Micronesia, Parvati, when she won the Black Widow Brigade, she actually came out and was press a couple times. That's how her and I became friends. Andrea Belke also came out and was press as well. So I imagine someone watch this podcast like, oh, I'm here for the wrestling, and then as soon as they hear this, they're like, I have no idea what he's talking about, or vice versa. They're like, oh, Survivor, and they're like, who the hell's Roman Reigns? So yeah, it's really it's so much fun, and the community's great.
I'm
So
glad I
yeah.
took this interview. I'm glad I took this interview.
So weird.
Because I'll be very honest with you, and I don't know how you feel about media, but I get solicited a lot.
Mm.
And I hate to say this, but I have to think and I actually have to actively say, I don't know if this is a good fit because and it's going to make me sound like an asshole, but there's a lot of people that I get on my show. Like I interview a lot of top voice actors. And I'm like, do I want to put somebody who is an amateur, right? Because I don't know. I don't know. And it sounds horrible when I say it. Or with Kickstarters, do I want to put somebody who's not going to fund or is not going to deliver? And I have to openly evaluate what I'm doing. And I'm sure people, when I'm reaching out for media, they have to make those decisions too. And it's interesting because I've had a lot of big names on my show. And I sometimes ask, hey, why did you want to go on? They're like, nobody asks me for an interview.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. And you're like, I haven't done an interview in 6 months. You're the first one who asked me. And so like, but obviously, I mean, it helped that I think David Whalen, you mentioned that,
Mhm.
but my whole thing is that it's very interesting because I don't know how you feel about that, but when you're doing media on Survivor, obviously you kind of had Comcast, vouching for you, but then you've built a name and you've built the whole thing out of this.
Yeah.
That's what's interesting is
It,
that
it's kind of crazy because in the later seasons, I show up in Fiji, and there's one day we do all the interviews, and more they're casting Survivor fans. Like they used to kind of avoid that, but now the game is so complex. I think they want more and more people who know the show, and it'll be interesting because they literally take us to an island, they dump us off, and then they put us in a corner, they like literally cut through the grass to give us a spot to do an interview, and then one by one they bring in people to talk for us to talk to, and like 8 out of 10 of them know who I am, and that blows my mind. Because, like I said, being a Survivor journalist is like the smallest amount of fame you can have in the whole wide world. But to have these people be like, oh my god, I'm so like, are we gonna do word association? And I'm like, no, that's exit interview stuff. But like, it makes me feel good because like I feel like I'm a part of this crazy little world. We like I said, and the power rankings thing we do, it's like a game where we rank people based on how safe we think they are. There are people that have played that game with me, have gone back on the show, and then while they're on the beach, they sit and they do it in the sand to give themselves a better idea of what they should be doing next and who's in trouble and who they should be working with. So like just to have like that, like the tiniest little impact on this thing that I love so much has been very meaningful to me. And yeah, like it's crazy and it's weird, and like it's nobody I know watches Survivor. That's the thing. My own.
I watch the clips from it because I think
Yeah.
the challenges are fascinating.
Yes.
And look, there are better challenges and there are not so great challenges. Like so, and that's not necessarily the designer's fault. It's just that sometimes a challenge is not in 2 minutes, and the challenge is just not a good challenge for that group because and you can't predict that. But then you have crazy challenges where, like the great challenge, is always a great one when the water's rising up. But then you have challenges that get hacked and get broken, and you're like, oh, that wasn't that great.
I hacked one. We did when we were out for, I want to say it was Ghost Island. There's a puzzle that's a wagon wheel, and our team was getting their asses kicked. And I just like Josh Wigler, who used to be with Parade magazine. was out with us, and we were the puzzle team. And it just made, like, looking at it made sense. And I remember we were finishing it, and Probst was like, "They're never going to catch Josh and Gordon." And I was shocked because I knew how far behind we were. So when it was over, I got tapped on the shoulder. Like, they're like, "I think you broke that. I think we can't use that anymore." So yeah, it's just it's a great time. And like I said, nobody I know watches the show. So whenever I get to go out there, it's cool because I get to talk to people that actually watch the show. My own wife doesn't watch the show. Do you remember Rick Devens? I think he might have been 38 or 37. He was like the newscaster that was on the show. That was really funny. That's like the one time my wife gave a crap about Survivor. She, for some reason, liked Rick Devens, but other than that, she has no time or interest in it.
I know, like, I know this season, Heroes versus Villains. I know that one.
Mm.
I know the Water vs. Blood,
Mm-hmm.
and they did Water vs. Blood too,
Yep.
right? I know, which I know Micronesia. I know that one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know, what was the one where, All Stars? No, 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 that wasn't. It starts with an M. I can't say it. Redemption Island was Rob.
Redemption Island was Rob. That's right.
Um, Shoot, what season did Tony win on?
Tony won. It was a Beauty Brains Brawn, and then he won Winners at War as well.
Yeah, and then
That guy is as advertised. Like, he is exactly what you want him to be. He is that. I don't want to say insane because that sounds negative, but like, just that like bundle of like crazy energy. I love that. Like, I love Tony so much. Everybody's like, "Who's your favorite player?" And I hate to answer that because there are players I'm actually close with, like, that I've friends with, and I've been in their weddings and etc. But like, as far as like watching, I'll watch Tony all day long. Even like Russell Hantz, who was like a pretty famous Survivor villain. Um, you know, I like, he's an a hole, but I love to watch him. And I say a hole, I mean that in the nicest way. Like, legitimately having interviewed every competitor, of the past 15 years. So that's 40 people a year for 15 years. Like, two of them are jerks, like, in real life. Like, that's the kind of the thing. My mom, I always call it like a Facebook fan, because Facebook fans are very much like that person's mean, I don't like them. Whereas, more people are like, "Ooh, he's a villain, I love it." So my mom, if you're like the littlest bit mean or crafty, like, she hates your guts. So she's like, "Oh, I can't believe you have to interview that person. They're such a jerk." And I'm like, "No, they're great. They're the best. They're funny." So, but yeah, like, legitimately, of thousands at this point, like, two are jerks. So, yeah,
it's interesting, right? Because I've done probably anywhere from 600 to 800 interviews.
wow.
Um, on my show before this one and this one. When you're doing like 120 interviews a year and you've been doing it for 10 years, it's not that hard to get up a lot of interview numbers. It's not impressive. It's just time. If you do 100 interviews and then you've done 10 years of it,
I'm
it's not
impressed.
it's not that impressive. It's not. It'd be impressive if I did it in like a year. That'd be fantastic. But when you're doing 4 a week, it's last year I think I did on average like 3.5 a week, which is insane. Oh my God, just 2022. Oh, I did like 150 in that year.
Well,
Oh my God, just like,
the the
what's wrong
Comcast
with me?
gig, the Comcast gig got really interesting because, like, the Survivor thing was through Comcast, and once I came back, they were like, "This is your thing now." And then it, like, kind of expanded. Like, there was a point where we were doing interviews with wrestlers, we were doing like live chats with wrestlers. Then there was even a point where they turned us into like customer facing entities, where every week the TV editor and the sports editor, and I was the gaming editor at the time, would get together to talk about what movies we're watching or what games we're playing, and that included like doing celebrity interviews as well. So, like, the cast of The Matrix or the Aretha Franklin movie or Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So it weirdly, like, my whole career has been like kind of falling ass backwards into this kind of thing. Like, I didn't pursue Survivor; it was offered to me, and I'm very much a say yes kind of person. But yeah, like, over the years, like, the wrestling thing was like, the things just came, and interviews with like Hulk Hogan or John Cena or Steve Austin or Edge or Charlotte or a bunch of others. So it has been. It's been like a really like cool. It's the coolest thing. I don't know how to, like. It's always interesting when people are like, "How do I get your job?" And it's like, it just weirdly happened. Um,
I gotta ask for everything, and
I know.
and I just keep knocking, and I'm not going away. And a good friend of mine said, just keep asking, just being polite
Yep.
until these people say, I can't fucking take it with this kid. I fucking can't take it. Yes, just leave me the fuck alone. I'll do it.
That's what I ended up like. Because people would always ask, like, how do you get your job? And I was like, I was always like, get in anywhere at the place you want to work, and then opportunities come. And there was actually a kid had reached out to me. He wanted to be on that dream team, and he's like, I don't know how to do it. And I'm like, well, send me your resume. I'll see if I can get it to the team that does it, and did. And then ended up in Samoa. Like he got back to me. It was, again, like, and that's my advice. Like, I don't know if you came here for everybody came here for inspirational things, but like, ask. The worst thing anybody can do is say no. So this kid asked me, he's like, how do I get on the dream team? And I was like, send me a resume, see what I can do. And like, legitimately just sent forwarded an attachment. Like, that's nothing. And then heard back from the kid, and he was like, hey, they have their dream team, but they're going to keep me in mind for next year. A couple weeks later, I'm out in Samoa for Survivor, and we're getting ready for a challenge. And this real pretty blonde is like, you're Gordon Holmes, and you never know how to take that. I was like, yeah. And she's like, wait here. And I was like, oh no, what's happening? She came back with the kid. Someone dropped out, and he got to be on join the dream team. Now he's a producer. He's a beach producer. Like that, like, when they're on the set, there's camera people and like boom mic holders, and there's somebody with a headset whose job it is to send someone over there and send, follow those two as they go out in the woods. That's his job. He's like risen up the ranks. So yeah, like, ask. That's like the worst that can happen is people say no.
No. All I do is I ask, and then what I figured out, and if anybody wants advice on interviewing, is that in order to get 120 interviews a year, I have to ask about 600 to 700 people. And all I do is I ask, and I just keep asking, and nobody is too big to ask.
Yep.
Because guess what happens? There's the 1 in a million that I'll ask a top voice actor or actress, and she's like, yeah, I'm in. Do you want to do it? And then I'm like, really? And I'm like, this is cool. And then also what happens is that I'll ask somebody, I get nothing. And then a year later, I'll ask again. They're like, yeah, let's do it. And so again, the worst, I've only had 2 positions where somebody's been an asshole to me. And maybe they were just having a bad day.
He was one.
No.
Okay, I'm three.
For whatever reason, that person was just being difficult. And my new solution to that is my response back, if you're a dick to me, is saying, look, I was being professional with you, and I'm rescinding my offer. Oh. And then you publicly blast them, and you put that out there, just so they understand that it's publicly addressed. No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Well, I gotta be on my best behavior from now on. See, you're like, you got to ask. I'm like, I begged Andrew. I was like, please, come on, buddy. And so I do appreciate this.
No. Again, though, I vet people and I think about it. And what I say to people, I say, look, let me see what I've opened. And I said, cool, give me a second, give me like a day or two to figure out my schedule. Because again, I do vet people, and you have to, because if you don't, I know people take everybody. I don't take everybody because I'm not that type of show. But I digress. But I do want to talk about Boston Rob, because Boston Rob's played Survivor, what, 5 times, and he's been on 6?
Yes, 5, and then he was kind of like an advisor for that 6th time. He didn't actually play.
That was interesting. I like.
Wait. It was 4. Is it Marquesas, All Stars, Heroes versus Villains, Redemption Island, Winners at War, and he won Redemption Island. That was season 21.
And that was great. That was great. It's him and Russell. That was great. But Russell didn't make it very far.
I'm sorry, that was season 22. I was out for season 21, which is Nicaragua, and I know that they were bouncing around that idea. And I remember they said to me, they were like, what do you think? And I'm like, oh, they'll be first out. I was like, unless you give them immunity until the merge, there's no possible way one of them will win. And obviously Rob won. And I think it really tells you how valuable previous experience is, because every time they put newbies with returning players almost like dominate. So yeah, and there is a large, and I'm not part of this community. There's a large part of the Survivor. I am part of the Survivor community. There's a large part of the Survivor community I'm not a part of, that thinks that they absolutely cast a bunch of pushovers so Rob could win. I don't subscribe to that theory. I do not, because Andrew was on that season, and Andrew is awesome. But there is a large group of people.
I thought was Philip on that season with Rob?
Yes, Philip Shepard was definitely wow. When I talk about, he's not an a-hole, but like he's the real deal.
He's a little out there. He's a little
he,
out there.
he is as advertised. That guy. Yeah, he's something. That guy. And that's always a lot of people are like they're acting for TV, right? It's like most times no, like they might act up a little bit, but like you are who you are. You're starving. You're
I mean,
cold.
Johnny Fair, what was it? Johnny Fair
Fair
player.
play.
I mean, he was acting in some of that. He
Oh
was
yeah.
acting
Well,
for sure,
he's got
but
a wrestling background. Come on, man.
he was playing the game,
He
man.
was
He
like
was
Roddy
playing the
Piper's
game.
like right hand for a while. Like he knows his wrestling. He ended up in TNA for a long time. Good guy, actually. Really seemed to we to get his life together. Is doing really well. I like Fair Play.
Didn't he have the incident with Danny something where like he jumped in something, he just like picked him up?
What was he thinking? There was some kind of like reality TV show awards, and he like jumped up onto his face like he was going to Hurricane Rana him, and Bonaducci just like screw this and dumped Fair Play on his face. This ended up screwing Fair Play because he ended up having to have like I'm going to tell the story. I'm not sure how true it is, but my understanding was that he ended up having to have dental work done, and he was getting ready to go out for Survivor 16. Survivor Micronesia, the one that Parvati won, and was just in insane pain like the entire time, and that's why he ended up asking to be voted out. And again, take that with a grain of salt. I don't know how true that is, but that was a story I had always heard. So thank you, Bonaducci, for robbing us of Fair Play on Survivor, which I'm not happy about.
It's pretty funny. I mean,
That's the thing. There's a million like weirdo little stories that never made the air. Like a brick of cocaine washed up on a beach once.
that's insane too.
Production took it away. My understanding is production took it away. It was before my time, but like, yeah, there's a million and one like weird little stories like that from the show. But yeah.
See, this is the problem with Survivor, right? They haven't introduced the Survivor diet. I mean, they're missing a great branding opportunity here. You have a position where people want to lose weight at the beginning of the year, and so you should be able to pay money to go on the Survivor diet.
They just send you like rice and coconut, and they stress you out, and they don't let you sleep. But now that it's only 26 days, like people aren't getting like that like old school Survivor emaciated like they used to.
I don't know though. How do you feel about that? Because I kind of like it being 26 days. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's good. I mean,
it doesn't bother me. Like there's a lot of people it really bothers. And if you're a pre-season 40 player, it really bothers you. It really bothers you that they get a 13-day the difference. I don't notice it when I watch it on TV. That's like people are like they should play for more money. I don't care. It doesn't affect me like if they play for 1 million, 2 million, or 10 million. So that doesn't bother me. The days don't bother me. The one thing I do miss is the family visit, which they don't really do now that they've gone to 26 days. But other than that,
auction, I would like to see that back.
Yeah, there was some weird controversy where they did it for 45, and they're not going to do it for this season because the logistics of getting like a cooked hamburger to location was too much to deal with. There's something really weird.
It's that difficult to deal with. What the fuck? Like that's ridiculous.
It's a production.
Well, you're shooting Survivor. How fucking complicated is it to get a hamburger there?
That's what Probe said, and it's like I like the auction.
Bullshit.
They did they gave some twists to it this time, which were one I liked. Like they made them like earn the money. They made them do a challenge to get the money. So some had more than others. But then it was like if you were the person with the most money left, you'd lose your vote. And I'm sick of losing votes. The Survivor at its core is we've made a society, and the person that the society deems should go home gets voted out. And getting voted out is death. That's basically the basic concept of the show. But now there's so many twists. They've gotten away from that. I would scream up and down at Probst how much I hated Redemption Island. Any kind of thing that lets you get, because like voting out is death in my book. And that was Mark Burnett was a big believer in that. And Probst like loved the idea of a second chance, which I was always against. But Probst is an interesting guy because like I've never had an experience where he wants like a yes man around. Like he wants to be challenged. Like he wants to, and he's running the entire show now. Like he's the main producer. So like, but yeah, was never a fan of that. It's so twisty now. Like everything is you're losing a vote, or you've got an idol that only works for 3 days, or
Yeah.
500
I
other
mean, I'm
things.
not a fan of the idols. I'm not like to
That's
me, it's like the idols nullifiers. Like
yeah.
it's kind of like now we're like playing four-dimensional
It's
chess.
never going back. It's never going back to classic Survivor ever, ever, ever. As much as some people may want it, it's just it's a different game now. And
So on the vein of Survivor, obviously, I mean, I have been watching this season. Been a little bit tired and lazy, and other things are going on. But I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm sure I'll catch a few challenges. But again, it doesn't get good till we're like on episode 4 anyway.
I,
So
I think you said that earlier. Yeah, it's I like I said, my memory due to chair shots to the head is garbage. So I like the getting to know you period. I need it to be able to speak about it intelligently after the fact. But yeah, like it is a matter of like it used to be like with the two tribes. There's always like the one sitting duck, like the one awkward person that was going to go, or the person that plays too fast or whatever. But now with the three tribes, it's there's nowhere to hide. So it like I kind of like I wish they would go back to the two tribes. But
I have an idea that I want for Survivor, right?
let's hear it.
This is what they need to do. They need to have. I would love to see two ideas: rookies versus a tribe of returning veterans,
Mhm,
and not people one, but the whole tribe is returning veterans,
mhm,
because I think that would be interesting, right? So these two tribes, the veteran tribe and the rookie tribe, or the fresh tribe, or the fresh new blood, they're not interacting with each other till the merge. So you can't have a pushover where you could have dominant challenges and dominant rewards, but you're not going to have a situation where essentially you're going to figure out, because at some point the fresh new meat is probably
mhm.
going to win a round or two. That's going to vote out some of the veterans, and the veterans are going to win a bunch too. But then when the merge happens, that's when it's going to get good.
Well,
So now, because they haven't
they
done that, I
They
think.
they did that. Survivor Micronesia was a fans versus favorites season, so it was 9 newbies against 9 returning players, and Survivor Caramoan was also fans versus favorites. But they didn't stay separated till the merge. I think they did a swap like a couple episodes in.
I
Uh,
would get rid of the swap, and I would almost, the only time these two things would interact with each other is during challenges.
mhm,
And you got to, I mean, you might have to start sort of doing things like, hey, if you want to get an idol, you got to talk to this person and give them a secret code. But because you want to start building a little bit of trust in there, but you want to get it to the point where they're weaning out their weakest people, they feel, in there. But the two tribes should stay separate and no swaps.
okay.
None. Because I
Yeah.
think that'd be so interesting. Because the idea is, I got the idea from Hell's Kitchen, where you had returning veterans in the blue kitchen and the newbies in the red kitchen, but it was teams of men and women versus men versus women, which is what Hell's Kitchen has done. And I
Mhm.
thought that was really clever. And then the other idea, and I don't know how you would do it, but it'd be fascinating, is that if you had only 12 players in for the first episode, but when somebody gets voted out, a new player enters who's a returning veteran.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
But what?
now, but they just show up at camp. You don't tell anybody, and it's the biggest surprise. And you don't tell anybody except a few people in the press. And then all of a sudden, Boston Rob shows up in your camp, and he's like, and then Jeff Prose leaves a note, and then Boston Rob reads it, and then the other tribe doesn't know until the next challenge. So now you have a whole different game. And then when you get the tribe swaps somewhere in the middle of the season, you have a very interesting. So you have 18 players, but you don't have 18 players to start.
I think you just like Boston Rob. I think that's what we're going. Like you just like, how can I fit Boston Rob back into this game? Which I get. He's very entertaining.
Or you could put anybody in there. You could put Russell Hanson. You could put Tyson in there. You could put, somebody who hasn't won. You could put Spencer in there. But the idea is that all of a sudden you just threw a whole new wrench because you just eliminated somebody. But did you eliminate? You introduced a whole new unknown.
Yeah.
Because
I
now this person doesn't know the tribe, but guess what? What happens if that person knows and then you build a challenge that person wasn't good at when they come back, but
mm,
they have the experience of not being good at it, kind of like that water puzzle challenge.
mm.
So if somebody was really bad at that and failed multiple times, there you go. And so now what happens if they win that challenge? They're not getting voted out, but then now they're bonding with the new tribe and they're bringing information of other things. And that I think would be a fascinating season.
Yeah. I don't want to break your heart, but the odds of them bringing back pre-40 players, I don't think it's very good. I think this new era, if they do any kind of returnee season for 50, I imagine it's probably going to be all people from the new seasons, which
Or you don't even have to bring in somebody from you can bring in a completely new
yeah.
face. But I like the idea that you're bringing in 6 players who are in their own tribe, not competing in anything, but they're on like a third island. But they're eating what everybody else is eating, but then they get plucked, right? And
I
then you might have a challenge to see who goes next into the game.
yeah. I had
Or
like the idea. I'm sorry to cut you off. Go.
oh no, please go. This is
I, I
fascinating.
I had kind of had this idea where if they could have two concurrent seasons running at the same time, that the other team, the two seasons are completely separate. They have no idea the other one exists, right? And they, like one season airs on CBS and the other runs on Paramount Plus because we got to give someone a reason to watch Paramount Plus. But then it would be a thing where like they might even run the same challenges just on different days, things like that, and alternate the schedule. And then at one point where they think they're getting to the merge and they're down to like 9 people. There's this big tarp, and both sides have the remaining 9 people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this game has just started." And they drop the tarp, and you'd be like, "Oh no, 9!" Like I'd like to do it with returnees, so you'd be like, "Oh shit, Boston Rob's here," and that would be called Survivor Day of Reckoning, because that's the day where like, "Oh no, we thought we were so far in this game, and instead we got 9 other people to worry about." So I imagine from a logistical standpoint, if they can't get a hamburger over to an auction, I imagine it might be tough to get a whole concurrent game going. But
I
that was
think
the idea I bounced.
I would love the idea because it's not a second chance. It's the idea that you now are introducing an unknown
Yeah,
where you eliminate one thing, but the tribe, and then you keep doing this, and then you have 6 people. So you have basically challenges with these 6 people on a separate island where nobody's getting eliminated. But if you come in last, you're the first one in the
mm.
game.
Oh, that's an interesting. Um, that's an interesting mechanic.
So because if you go last, you or if you go first, if you win the challenge, you go into the game first, or you could sit it out with somebody else. You can choose who goes in, including yourself, because now it's giving a really interesting power play into something because it's kind of like, do you want to go in first and bond with your new tribe and make new alliances, or do you want to appear somewhere in the middle of this game when more people are eliminated, but you don't know which team you're going to either,
Yeah,
and you know
that's
nothing about the game, minus the fact that the yellow tribe just lost somebody.
yeah, that's a cool mechanic. The challenge is to determine when you come in. Yeah, I'm
Right.
into it.
I think it could be done. I think it would be fascinating because people are like, wait, there's only 12 players in this game? Because it would be interesting, but they wouldn't know if there's a third tribe.
Mm.
And on that first challenge, they would be like, "Okay," and then somebody would just show up at camp, and they'd bring like a bag of rice for the losing team, show goodwill, and you're off. And now you
Yeah,
have
the only downside I can think of is that it gives the people who start from the beginning are at somewhat like kind of like the Royal Rumble, kind of at a disadvantage because they have to start a little earlier.
but the people who come in are living in the camp, and they're just not doing the challenges, but they're doing different challenges.
Right.
So
Interesting.
nobody, it's not like if Joe Smith is eating, a smoothie at Panera, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm in, guys." And he's like has a smoothie and like he has like a like Appletini, and he shows up to camp in like fresh clothes. No, no, they're playing a game and they're in the game. They're just not in the game yet. Well, I think, but I don't know. That's what I would like. I'm sure CBS could figure it out, but I digress. But again, how do you feel about Deal or No Deal Island?
Oh
Because
my goodness. I
Austin
want
Rob's in that, and this is getting good. I mean, he's conniving, and I don't know if his friend on that show is going to screw him or he's going to screw his friend. But it's fascinating. But I like how his friend, for those who didn't see it, basically what was it, Brazen or Branson?
oh,
Kind of
I don't remember any names ever.
he helped the woman who was faking it and playing the game, and he basically forced the other guy to go up, and then he won the deal, and then he eliminated him. I thought that was great, and he didn't eliminate Boston Rob's pick. I thought that was great.
Yeah. Like so I guess only one episode's aired at this point, and like I love the adventure. I like obviously love Boston Rob. It's weird. These challenges, but like I gotta admit, like and I enjoy Deal or No Deal, the TV show, but like it kind of like takes too long. Like I don't know if I'm just trained that when they get to the end of the day, tribal council, for lack of a better term, it should only take 5 or 10 minutes. But like I was kind of bored. I kind of like it. Kind of lost me there. I also don't like the mechanic of a good deal versus a bad deal because it kind of as your goal should be stay in the game. So it's kind of like, so is it better if I knock off the high prices and make less money for the team so that way my case is more likely to be a good deal? So I didn't love that. I also didn't love that the person, if you win Deal or No Deal, can be like, okay, well, you are out. Like that mechanic seemed a little
I
wonky
think
to me.
I think what they're trying to do is that I think they're taking Deal or No Deal and they're implementing Survivor
Sure.
with a twist. Because that's what it is, right? Because we have in Survivor, you are basically they're a tribe, right? And they're trying to get as much money for the final game. And then what determines the amount of money and who's going to leave is the Deal or No Deal game, which is tribal council, but everybody's conniving in one way or another. And we saw a little bit of it in the first episode, but we're probably going to see a lot more of it. And we have some alliances forming and we have other components forming. And so that's kind of where we're at with this. And it's interesting because we're not really watching Deal or No Deal, are we? I
No,
think
but
what
like,
we're watching is how do I get the most money but keep myself safe?
yeah, but like it's there's something there. Like I'm intrigued. It like it needs tweaks. It needs to tighten up that game of Deal or No Deal at the end. Like, but have you been watching Traders at all?
Don't know yet.
Parvati and Sandra are on that, and it's kind of the thing where it's like I like it, but it's
What,
not
what, what,
right.
what is this? What is this?
So traders is basically there's 18 people or however many people playing a game, and three of them or two of them or four of them are traders. And every night the traders get together and they can kill somebody. They'll write somebody's name down and they're out of the game. And then every evening everybody gets together to try to determine who the traders are. They have like a big kind of like tribal council vote. And after they vote someone out, they have to go to
Is
the.
this on Peacock?
It's on Peacock.
Oh,
So
I've never seen now. Now I know. I was like,
yeah.
it wasn't connecting with me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so they all get together and they'll vote somebody out of the game, and that person has to go to the circle of truth and be like, I'm a traitor or I'm a faithful, and their goal is to vote out traitors, and that stuff's all very interesting. But the mechanic that's broken is they run an immunity challenge to win money for a pot, and everybody who if you get to the end and you're a faithful and you get rid of the traitors, or you're a traitor, you get rid of all the faithful. They all get the same pot. So there's no reason for the traitors to do anything traitorous. There's no reason for them to expose them. Kind of like the mole. I don't remember if that show. Actually, there was a recent rehash of that. But like, there's no reason for the traitors to act like traitors. So that's always kind of been like the one thing. If they could just figure that out, they'd really have something. The same thing with Deal or No Deal. It's like I like this concept. I like games in tropical locations. I like the idea that there's going
Really,
to
what's
be.
going on is that you didn't get to do press for it, and
I
that's why
know.
you're
That's
upset.
it. Yeah.
That's really what's going
Yeah.
on.
I'm not above admitting that, Andrew. So yeah, that's 100%. If you're not going to fly me to Fiji, I'm not going to support your reality show. That's basically my rule of thumb for that kind of thing.
I want to know who the banker is. That's what I want to know. Like I want to go on his yacht. And I want to have a good time. Like,
Excuse me.
have you seen The Lift that was on Netflix with Kevin Hart?
No.
There's a scene in there where they're partying on the yacht. I'm like, that's what I want to do with the banker. I just want to go on the yacht and have a party and go raving and then go like with my fist in the air and be like, woohoo! Let's go spend some money.
On banker.
$200 million worth. Go team, go.
But honestly, Boston Rob needs to win this. The guy's got 4 kids. Let's the guy has 4 perfect copies of his wife. I don't know if you remember when they showed up at Winners at War, but like he and Amber made 4 little Ambers. It's amazing. He's gonna have to pay for wedding. Actually, Amber, when I was out there, Amber said that she's like, "I have to pay for 4 prom dresses. I'm gonna pay for 4 weddings." She's like, "We need this money." So hopefully, Rob's able to pull this off.
I mean, I don't know what Rob does in his day job, but I mean, doesn't he like do like remodels of houses and stuff?
Yeah, and he I know he works on certain like home renovation reality shows, and he's a personality. He plays poker still. That's a big thing. So, but yeah,
I mean, they're loaded. They're loaded. Let's not pretend here.
I mean, they both won $1 million. I imagine they got a nice check. He got a nice check for Island of the Idols to be out there for a couple months. But 4 kids, man, that's shoes are not cheap, and they grow out of them so fast.
You're out in Survivor for a couple months. That's a lot.
Well, I get yeah, he was out there for the full run, so like 39 days. They didn't let him keep that giant Boston Rob head though. That would have been in my contract. I'm like, you fly this back to my house when we're done. That was the great part about Winners at War is where I did pregame interviews was across like on an island right across from the Island of the Idols island, so you could see Sandra and Rob's giant head as you were sitting down to interview me. So yeah, no pressure, guys.
That's amazing. That's amazing. No, they have something. They have me intrigued. I would not be watching this if Boston Rob wasn't in it.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. And I mean, it would be really, really. It would be good and bad if he got eliminated first. It would have been good and bad because he didn't. And I think it would be interesting if he doesn't. If he gets to episode 4 or 5, because I don't know how many episodes they're going to do here.
Yeah, but the elimination mechanic's so basic. Just like you're out like that. So like, hopefully he sticks around. Like I wouldn't have like again having a toddler. My time is at a premium. So like I wouldn't be watching Traders if Parvati and Sandra weren't involved, and I wouldn't be watching Deal or No Deal if Rob wasn't involved. So apparently that's what affects my it's either wrestling or shows featuring former survivors. Or
I mean, I'll put it this way: I'm sure that these people get somewhat of an appearance fee for being on Survivor. And at Winners at War, I think that was bumped up because you need some enticement to do it. And then depending on where you end up, you get money. Right. But again, I mean, season 39 was a disaster. Let's just leave it at that. I don't think we're saying anything that isn't known.
No.
So they needed, and mine was season 40 moved up purposely.
Well, you mean the gimmick of Winners at War?
Yeah.
No, actually, it wasn't. It was interesting though, because I love Jeff Probst, but like he changes his mind frequently. I was out for season 30, and it was just a regular season. There were no returnees. The gimmick was worlds apart. It was white collar, blue collar, no collar, whatever that means. And I was like, so why aren't we doing something special for this big round number? And he was like, when I talked to Mark Burnett about it, it's like, what are we going to do for 30? And he's like, it's just 30. We're going to keep going. So, and he is someone who all over the years would, people bring him new ideas all the time. And of course, Winners was always a popular one. And he was like, I just don't think the Winners are that interesting. I think CBS disagreed. And that's how that ended up happening. But no, it was like I said, they do 2 a year. Me and the rest of the press decided we were going to do 40 because we had known in advance it was going to be likely to be all winners. So no, it was the 2 million was a surprise. None of the cast knew that the prize money is going to be bumped up, and I think that happened at the last minute. I remember getting on a boat to go to the drop, where the show starts. I remember they took them that sand spit, and they were like, "We're doing more money. It just came down. Is this the biggest prize in reality TV history?" And like they're asking us, like we're Google or something like that. And we're all kind of like brainstorming, like, well, Amazing Race did a thing once where if you won the first leg and the last leg, you'd get two. Like, so we're trying to figure out if it was accurate. But yeah, so like the money was last minute, but the Winners at War angle definitely was not.
Because I'm sure that Boston Rob is getting a nice appearance fee for being on Deal or No Deal Island, and I'm sure all of these people are because there's no way that if Boston Rob is driving traffic, much like Traders, where Poverty and Sandra are driving traffic to that show, and I think it would be problematic. And the people who are benefiting from Boston Rob being on that show is everybody else, and they're probably getting a bump up in what they would normally get paid if he wasn't there.
Well,
So
I don't know what falls under the, standards and practices as far as it being technically a game show. If, if like, I don't know how that would affect if like Boston Rob is the star of that show. Clearly, I think there's a woman who used to be one of the briefcase holders. Not that anybody's watching for that.
I think so. So if you go out and Deal or No Deal, I think it's a little bit different because this clearly is not a game show anymore. This is a reality game show.
Right.
The Deal or No Deal Island is something else. It's much like Survivor is not a game show. Survivor is a reality show with a cash prize and a game component to it.
Right, but they still have standards and practices there that have to make sure that things are on the up and up. Yeah,
that is true. That is true. But I think Jeopardy and Survivor are very different.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be very honest about this, where I think Survivor is a marathon game, and there's reality components, and there is way more things that could go wrong. The worst thing in Jeopardy that could happen is you get an answer wrong. That's legitimately the worst that could happen in Jeopardy.
You could have a heart attack. You could stub your toe. That could be worse. I learned the term for that kind of show is a shiny floor game show. So yeah, Survivor is definitely not. It does not have a shiny floor. It has leeches and bugs and
fair enough.
Starvation.
We spoke about everything but your wrestling book. So the bad guys. So again. I had like 5 minutes planned for these two sections. I really had 5 minutes planned. Clearly we went off the rail here. But that's all right. This is actually very, very fascinating. But I do want to briefly talk about your comic book / graphic novel. And feel free to correct me here, but obviously it is a metaphor of what's going on. Is the nicest way I could say it. It's a parallel where you have a wrestler who is in a circumstance. I'm going to let you explain it a little bit better than I can for a reason. I'm being vague for a reason.
Right.
He's in a circumstance and he's in a match that's reflecting somewhat of what's going on. And the match is timed perfectly to kind of what's going on in his life. And it's a pivotal moment for him in his life, for his opponent. And there's a reason why he's doing certain things in the match. And as, the match is going on and certain holds are being done and not just swing one way and then it swings the other, life is kind of working in that way in the real world. So again, I'm going to let you kind of fill in the details a little bit because I think that's how I describe it.
Yeah. And like, boy, there's no harder sell being a Survivor reporter than buy my wrestling comic book. Like that doesn't happen. So I'll be like, I don't want to give away spoilers or anything like that. Obviously, I hope everybody checks it out. It was a story that, really it kind of it came together really quickly. I remember it was snowed in and like I said, wrote it as like a short script and then wanted to like, do we film it? What do we do with it? And yeah, it's about, as a wrestling fan, we don't get a lot of respect, right? Everybody always kind of rolls their eyes when you hear about wrestling. As a kid growing up, like my parents hated wrestling, my sister hated wrestling. Like it's like the cool kids at school don't watch wrestling. So it was very much, seen as like lowbrow entertainment, and to some degree, sure. But like I said, it's also theater. It's also like I obviously love it. I love the storytelling aspect of professional wrestling. It's the only storytelling mechanic in the world that gives you 7/8 of the story and then expects you to buy that final eighth. Nothing else exists like that. So with this, Yeah, like it was, I'm a wrestling guy. I'm also a musical theater guy. I was the lead musical theater guy in my high school, and then all throughout college. My wife and I met doing a production of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, um, and it was. I liked this idea of this pro wrestler that when I was a bad guy wrestler, it's the greatest thing in the world. To get into a little kid's face and be like, your local sports team sucks. Like there's nothing like that, and it's easy. Being a good guy is hard. Like getting people to like you is challenging, and as we've learned, oftentimes the good guy wrestlers are the biggest jerks, and the bad guy wrestlers are the nicest guys. So like the idea of this person that was hated, was going through the book's really about marriage and what it's like to be a husband, to be going through some real struggles in his personal life, and yeah, it's just a story that I'm so happy to tell.
I
And
could speak in code. I could speak in code.
yeah,
Shotzi Blackheart.
that yeah, when that like this had been in the
Is that a good code? Is that a
I
good
know,
code?
I don't like, that's the thing, is like I hate to give away the end, but
That's not giving away. That's not giving away much. I mean,
maybe you got to know a lot about wrestling to know what that means. But yeah, it was it. The truth is
you have to watch my show and my Friday nights to know what that means.
yeah,
That's what people have to watch. I'm not going to say which ones, but maybe
yeah.
month and a half ago, you could piece it together with certain people
Um,
that I've had on.
yeah,
I love Shotzi so much. I've seen her wrestle so much on the indies.
yeah.
I should have asked her for an interview.
Was it
Um,
her name? At one point, she was Missy High as shit. Was her like
she was
wrestling name?
Pizza Cat. She was Pizza Cat. Missy Hyatt.
Miss
You
High
know,
as
took
shit.
over Pizza Cat, right? Billy
What's that?
Starks took over Pizza Cat.
She managed the Stoner Brothers instead of the Steiner Brothers. Um, but yeah, like
She used to replace Trip Cassidy. So Trip Cassidy couldn't make it at a bunch of shows. So replacing Trip Cassidy is Shotzi Blackheart. And she come out like in like the horns and everything. It was great. It's
yeah,
great. It's like she's fantastic. She wrestled the boys. It was great.
yeah. But yeah, like it was like I said, it's, like people who read it like are surprised. Like I've been told it's like the wrestling comic that made me cry, which it's like the very first person outside of my wife I let read it said that it was not a wrestling fan. I'm like, okay, well that like can I use that as a blurb? So like
I'm purposely being as vague as humanly
no, and
possible.
I appreciate that because like without the ending or the twist ending, like what does it have?
So I do want to talk about this because obviously it's about life. I think is a fair position, and I think it's a very, very interesting parallel. And I think things that do that are very interesting.
Mhm.
And again, I'm being vague for a reason because I think that again, once we dive too much into it, it's interesting, but it's also interesting to see the behind the scenes stuff
Mhm.
where obviously, there is this idea of giving back to the business in this book. And I think it's a very complicated thing in wrestling. I had a guy named Brother Greatness on, and Brother Greatness, this guy Love Doug, came back from an injury, and he had a great feud on the Indies with Love Doug. And Brother Greatness said, "I was happy to do and give Love Doug the match he needed in the feud he needed over a month or two to get him back into the system and on the train again, for lack of a better word."
Mhm.
And then I had Anthony Green on, who was August Gray in WWE. I got him before, and then I got him right before he went. He got me Josh Briggs because him and Josh Briggs are like best
Okay.
friends. So Josh Briggs is in NXT still, but Anthony Green gives back to the industry, and I think it's a very interesting thing because that's another part of this book, and that's not giving too much away
No.
either. In this book, but I think it's a fascinating position because I'm sure you know guys who don't give back to the industry.
Well, we're still in a world where I'm a former professional wrestler, and legitimately every person I have ever met who has learned this fact, the first question they ask is, "It's fake, right?" Which is mind blowing because wrestling hasn't portrayed itself as real since the '80s when Vince McMahon admitted in front of a court that it was sports entertainment. So wrestling has this weird people are people are fascinated by it. They love to call it fake. Nobody calls the Harlem Globetrotters fake. Harlem Globetrotters are sports entertainment. They're like they
Whoa,
just
whoa, whoa,
I
wait
know
a second, that's
I
not
know
real. Are you
I
ruining my
know.
day, man? I had a really
Sorry,
bad day today. We didn't ruin it.
sorry.
On a promise. No.
All
Okay.
right, sure. Hey guys. So yeah, it's a thing where like I said, like every time someone learns I was a pro wrestler, like it's fake, right? Which so like the idea that is still a question that gets asked, it blows my mind. The fact that like if you go on Instagram and someone posts a picture of Roman Reigns, there's comments be like fake, fake. It's like, yeah, dude, nobody like 70,000 people at the stadium. Nobody thinks it's real. Like it's like Bret Hart used to say, people always say you're a faker. They never say you're a good actor. They never say you're good at making this stuff look like it hurts,
So,
which is the truth.
but people say, "Oh my god, I did not see that ending." Like I
Yeah,
did not like. There's been plenty of times I'm like, "This might be not real," and then we know it's not real. But man, I did not see that one coming.
yeah.
Like I didn't.
If you let yourself have some freaking fun, right? Like my dad hated professional wrestling, and his son loved it, and that was a real problem for us. And but I would always say, my dad, like we have a challenging relationship, but I'd like, my dad and I had some issues, but you know what? He took me to the arena in St. Louis to see Hulk Hogan against the Big Boss Man in a steel cage, and I know he hated that, so that means a lot to me that he was willing to do that. And the perfect example of this was, like I had kind of not aged out of wrestling, but wasn't, didn't live as close to Philadelphia. So wasn't, when we had moved here, wasn't going to events. But then Ric Flair signed with the WWE. And I was like, I was an NWA guy as well. So I'm like, I need to see this. So when they did the first loop of Hogan Flair, I was like, I would love to see this. And my dad took me. And the Hogan Flair match, a house show in, I guess it was 91 or 90, I guess it was 91. It was so electric that I'm standing on my chair watching this, and I look next to me, and my dad, who doesn't give a shit about wrestling, is standing on his chair. Most of me, like a part of me is like, he didn't just want to watch, because if like you wouldn't stand on a chair to watch something you didn't care about. So like if you allow yourself to invest in it, it's just like any other form of entertainment. So with this, it was a thing where it was like it is like wrestling is beautiful. Like like the fact how two people can work together and make it seem like they're hurting each other and they aren't doing it. For one like I think there's people that look at it as taking a dive, which is insane, because you don't look at someone on a TV show, the bad guy in a TV show losing, as taking a dive. You see them doing their job. That's literally where the term job comes from. So it is a thing where of like, I love the idea of this heartwarming story between a husband and a wife, this story of people working together to tell a story, to like how wrestling is a performance and how it is beautiful, and how it, like, and maybe I'm getting too touchy feely with all this, but yeah, there, like, there are people that and like people have asked me, like, does it go anywhere from here? And it doesn't. I've thought about if it needed to, where to take it, but those would be things to explore. Is
So let's actually talk about this, because there's a lot of stuff in play outside the story.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's a physical copy of this book yet.
There isn't. It exists digitally now. Actually, that's not true. A friend of mine printed out a copy. She wanted to get it for her kid, but wanted to have like a physical thing, so she printed out a copy for me to sign. So that's the extent of like.
This is what's interesting, right? Because we are in a very, I mean, I don't know how big of a comic collector you are. I'm a huge comic collector.
Mm.
I should have brought down my favorite WWE books, but that's neither here nor there. I collect a lot of physical comics, and then obviously I buy and sell this stuff. So what is that like? Because digital is extremely popular.
Mm.
There's issues in the economy where a lot of people are using Kickstarters, and a lot of people are having a third or more of their backers going digital because it's cheaper, and they want to buy comics, but they can't afford a $30 book, but they can afford an $8 book for a lot of reasons. I mean, good, bad, or ugly, the economy wasn't where it was 2 years ago. COVID, people were less commuting to work, which means they had more money because they weren't spending it on gas. They had more time. Their cars and whatever else transportation wasn't getting damaged as much or used as much. So if you were only driving 20 miles a week instead of 160, that means that you're not going to have to replace parts of your car so
Mm.
fast. So, and then bars aren't open, movies aren't open, a lot of things aren't open. And people got relief. So now people have more money and now people have less. And the economy is stagnant, is a nice way to put it.
Mhm.
I think, and this has nothing to do with politics. We're just in a cycle where the economy isn't doing much better.
Sure.
Inflation is coming down, but it's still going to take a while for things to work themselves out into a better position and for things to upswing. So it's interesting though, because digital right now is really popular, but it's also a comic book, which is a very physical media. And
Yeah.
so I kind of get it from a cost position and a distribution position, but I'm just curious, like, it's kind of fascinating to me because it's like, I get it, but it's a comic book.
Yeah.
It makes my head explode a little bit. Like,
Yeah, and there are people that it's not real. It's not a real thing unless it exists in physical media.
'cause I've
So
never seen this. I've never seen this before where it's only a digital book.
right,
Like
and
like legit, like a legit comic that's only digital. I've seen people say, "Oh, I only have a digital thing. I haven't produced a physical copy of it," but it's not a legit book. Like
Mhm.
I've never seen, and I'm sure it exists, but I haven't seen it. That's why I'm so not angry, just perplexed.
Why would you be angry? But no, as as a first time author, and written art all by me, to an unproven author for a very niche book. It's like I said, like it's the like it's a tough sell. Like if I go on my Twitter or X and talk about Survivor, all the clicks in the world, all like, and I'll be like, hey, I wrote a comic book about wrestling. Nobody cared. Like not like would finish off or the preface my Survivor interviews like, hey, check out my blogs, blah blah blah. Oh, and I wrote a comic book. Nobody cares, which is fine. Like again, I'm insanely proud of it. If maybe if it does sell a certain number of digital, like that, we'll make the move to go print with it. But
So
like I have loved this process, and like I've jumped into my next project, and hopefully that will be a more commercially viable topic
this,
than
I think this
mushy
is
wrestling story.
so obviously I'll unveil a curtain. Hopefully, it won't hurt your career too much. But I interview adult entertainers as part of what I do.
Mhm,
And I love those interviews because we don't talk about their careers, but it's not graphic. But
mhm,
we talk about business, and there's a lot of sites that distribute their content, and it's passive income.
mhm.
And I have conversations with people in comics, and I'm like, don't you want to have a book and like a digital book where you're just selling it passively? So on somebody's website, you want to drive a lot of traffic to it. And then if somebody buys this, maybe if they're buying it for $4, you get a buck off of it, but you didn't have to produce anything
Right,
digitally.
right.
And I think this is where everybody messes up in comics because there's not a lot of money in comics for most people. Where to me, the play for you with this book is you just want to put it on a high traffic website that has a lot of click through,
Yeah,
and then it's somewhere on that website that gets some viewership. Because if you have a million people coming through, and even if you only get 0.05% clicking on it and buying it, you're still going to have a lot of people buying it a year. And then that's a huge passive income stream
sure.
because that's the play for this book. The play for this book is not if it's only digital, is you don't need to sell for $5. You should be selling it for three.
Yeah, yeah,
Five is a little high. I'll be honest. $3 is a perfect price point for this
yeah.
because it's not costing you a dime beyond what you put into it to make it.
Right. Well,
And
that's all that's in my publisher's hands. And right, honestly, it is very much I just want to get the word out to like a wrestling fan base. It's kind of like I said, my audience is only cares about Survivor.
let's actually talk about that too, because this didn't cost your publisher anything either.
Sure.
In reality, that's what's crazy about this is that because you're not printing a physical copy, this allows your publisher to say, "Hey, look, we could throw a little bit of marketing behind it. We could help you out a little bit. We could put it on our website, and that there's money for everybody to be made here." Because they took no risk on you beyond maybe providing you a little guidance
Mhm.
here and there, maybe doing a little editing, maybe helping you with formatting, right? Something like that. But that didn't cost them a lot of money, right? If they had to print it and they had to print 50 copies, that would cost them like $100.
Mhm.
But you didn't cost them a penny, and that's what's awesome. And it's really interesting, actually,
Yeah.
from just a pure business standpoint. It's fascinating because I think more creators should do things like this before they even do anything else with their
Yeah.
books.
Well, I mean, David's a great example of like, does David have print versions of his stuff, or is it all
He does.
digital?
He has
Oh, he
print
does
versions.
have print. Okay, yeah. I
So,
got
so,
the
so, so he has he does like omnibuses that are on Amazon.
okay.
He has, single issues. He
And does
has.
but does Amazon just like print those out for him, or does he have
I
to?
don't know. I actually don't know that. It's been a while since I've spoken to
Huh,
him. Um, he's done some work for me in like a trade. I mean, I
mhm,
was some like logo stuff for from I think like I wish I had some of these things. But he revised part of my logo, which is this thing right
okay,
here, a cute little elf. So he did like her holding an American flag and some other cool stuff, and her doing some Halloween stuff.
yeah,
I'm gonna put them on some metal cards and stuff.
yeah.
They're
Great
so
guy, great guy. Like he was so helpful. Because like I said, I'm so new to this. Like I kind of just like reached out to him. I'm like, can I can I like bend your ear for half an hour? And he was fantastic. So, learning about it. Funny quick thing. This book was so long in the making that the character, the good guy character, is named Flight Risk Danny Visk. Originally, his name was the man Danny Van, and I was like doing some touch up on it, and I was like, oh yeah, Becky Lynch. Because like I'd had that nickname years and years before, but nobody would have known it. They definitely didn't steal it from me because no one had seen it. But it like and even
cool.
that character is kind of styled after AJ Styles, but he's styled after AJ Styles from 15 years ago. With the So if you take a look, so it was very much a as I borrowed from the wrestling world, it like things had to be adjusted as time went on.
No, it's interesting. I mean, it's an interesting book. Let's just leave it at that. Because I can't say anything without
Right.
ruining it. It's fascinating. But yeah, no. Becky Lynch, AJ Styles. Oh man, Impact, TNA, AJ Styles.
Yeah, it was like because I loved AJ. I still do love AJ Styles. So yeah, when I was like, who's like a cool young guy, I was like, oh, AJ, and then like he is not young anymore. Yeah, I definitely. There's even one of the shots is him doing the phenomenal forearm pose. Was kind of my nod to AJ.
Oh
But
man, I love AJ Styles. He is something else. He
yeah,
is something else, and good on him for leaving Impact. Good on him because they
yeah,
they wanted to pay him half of what he was making. They wanted him to take a pay cut, and he's like, "Why would I take a pay cut?"
no, another guy in that same boat is like Cody, where it's like that took balls to not like his whole career had been at TNA with the exception of that brief period he was in WCW and NWA. So like good on him. He even turned down a WWE developmental contract because he didn't want to move his wife. So like he's made some like pretty tough decisions. But yeah, huge fan of him. Like Sting, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Chris Benoit. I hate to say, I was the biggest Chris Benoit.
So words of Paul Heyman, Chris Benoit, what he did was horrible. Have you seen the Paul Heyman?
I
Like,
saw something where he like kind of chewed some guy out.
so this yeah. They were shouting Chris Benoit, and Paul Heyman said what he did was horrible, but phenomenal wrestler, unbelievable, the best of the best. If you want to talk about Chris Benoit, the wrestler, that guy was unbelievable. This, that, and but as a person and what he did, absolutely horrible. And
Yeah.
like Paul Heyman called it straight out. I mean, I don't know if Paul Heyman was still employed by WWE when he said that, but good on Paul Heyman. I mean, I don't think I've heard many bad things about Paul Heyman, like what we've heard about some other people in wrestling
Right.
lately.
Yeah, I was legitimately like the biggest Chris Benoit fan, and I get like separating art from the artist, but like I can't do it anymore. Angle Benoit from Rumble '93, no, I'm sorry, 2003 was like my favorite match. I can't do it anymore. I like yeah, and so that
Was,
was
was it Rumble or was it Mania?
It was Rumble 03 was when him and Angle had that match. Immediately after that Triple H Scott Steiner disaster was just it's easily my favorite match of all time. And now
What win? I mean, Chris Benoit won.
Chris Benoit won the 04 Rumble in Philadelphia that I was in attendance for. I was so giddy.
Who did he beat at WrestleMania?
He was in a triple threat against Shawn Michaels and Triple H, and he tapped Triple H out. But I was at that Rumble because it was in Philadelphia, drove home, and then ordered the pay-per-view so I could watch it again. Like, that's how giddy I was that Benoit won that.
It's just that's amazing.
Yeah.
No, because again, I have an issue as well separating as a person. Certain events changed me, and certain people changed me, and certain things that happened in my life in the last 18 months have changed me. And nobody big, but just an event. And definitely, it's harder to do it now. It's really hard.
Yeah,
So I get it. I get it completely. And it's unfortunate when events happen like that, and then when it happens to you, and it wasn't like nobody died or anything. It was just that all of a sudden somebody does a really good job, but they're a horrible human being. It ruins it for everybody.
yeah, that's like, and not to get too dark here, but with all this Vince McMahon stuff, like how much of like stuff that was seeming like fun attitude era stuff is just like, oh, this might have been part of his
Look at the Ashley Massaro stuff.
Yeah. It's like, like all the Diva stuff, and not that I was like the biggest fan of like the Gravy Bowl match or anything like that, but like now everything that has like kind of like a sexual aura to, like, he wrote it, like he came up with this stuff.
So I'll tell you what I thought was funny when DX was going after Jonathan Coachman, and they had to go through the Divas locker room, and Triple H and Shawn Michaels are going through, and Shawn's covering his eyes. He's a good Christian, right? And he can't do it. He's like, all right. Then he goes, and then Triple H tells Shawn to go, and then Triple H is kind of flirting with the Divas. That to me, I thought was innocent fun. Right. I didn't think that was offensive or terrible. I thought that was just Triple H having a good time, or even like at SummerSlam when they're cooking all the hot dogs, and then they're with Candice Michelle, and then like the mustard squirting all over. Again, I thought that was just funny, right? To me, that wasn't what Vince, but then all the stuff with like Trish and all that stuff, and then all like the Vince's devils, like what was really going on? Yeah. And again, I don't know anymore. And this is the issue, is that everything has to be under a microscope, and everything has to be addressed. And again, I could say Vince is a creative genius, but I don't know if I can be a Vince McMahon fan anymore.
Yeah, it's like, and I'm very much like consenting adults. They're paid actors, etc. But with what came out, it's just
it's a question mark. Is a good way to put it?
Yeah, all of it just is like tainted, and it's kind of tough to look back on it as like with the same, I don't want to say like rose-colored glasses, but just like, they were trying to put on a show. Because like even if you go back and read like Vince's old Playboy interview, he admitted this, and this was probably around the XFL time, so probably like 2000. He's like, yeah, I cheated on my wife and I was a piece of garbage, but I never lied to her. Which, okay, well then you're good. But it was a thing where it's like, but I don't do that.
Howard Stern had an interview with Vince.
It's like, but I don't do that anymore. And it's like, no, you did so many worse things. Excuse me.
It's very complicated, and again, and even with other wrestlers, I mean, there's a lot of crazy shit that has come out, and it's very hard saying this person is a talented wrestler, Joey Ryan, but there's things that have come out that I'm now like, okay, like I don't know where I stand. And as a fan and as somebody who likes, this wrestler, it's complicated and it sucks.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's separating the art from the artist. Like I can listen to an R. Kelly song or a Michael Jackson song and be totally fine, but I can't watch an episode of The Cosby Show.
See, I'm a little bit different. I could listen to a Michael Jackson thing. I don't know if I can. I'm not on board with R. Kelly. I don't know. I'm not okay with R. Kelly. And then
I,
I mean, because I think
I don't support what
yeah,
happened.
no,
It's
I
just a matter of
understand.
like,
I
if I
understand.
hear "I believe I can fly," my brain doesn't automatically go, "Oh." But if, like a Cosby Show or a Chris Benoit, like, my brain's like, "Ugh." So,
Yeah,
I don't know if it's
I don't
audio
get
versus
I don't
visual
get
or
so upset about the Cosby stuff, but R. Kelly definitely I'm not okay with. Like Michael Jackson, I'm fine with Michael Jackson. I mean, I don't Michael Jackson's Michael Jackson. I can't I think of Pepsi when I hear Michael Jackson. I'm legit like Michael Jackson Pepsi. Like that's where my brain goes. Um, but R. Kelly, I'm definitely not like I can't listen to I Believe I Can Fly. I just can't.
who thought this conversation would go in this direction?
Oh, all my conversations go in this
We
direction.
we always end up here, Gordon. This is always how it turns out.
You should see Friday night. I mean, I'm sober because I got to go to work tomorrow. It's gonna suck so much. Um, I'm not usually in work on Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Mm.
Oddly enough, I shared an elevator on the way down with one of the owners of the company today, and we're talking about my disability of all things too. I volunteered the information, so it's all right.
Mm.
They legally can't ask.
Okay.
Unless I open up the door, and then it's perfectly fine. Um, but which is cool because I work in digital accessibility. So they hired a disabled person to do the job, not knowing he had a disability. Until I showed up walking on crutches, like I think we made a good choice today. Um, we really, really. So first off, we need to fill the role. Secondly, he seems like a decent human being. Thirdly, he has a disability. 10 points for Gryffindor. Yeah, we're gonna see that one right under to Albus.
That sound in the background is HR high-fiving themselves.
HR's like,
Hmm.
yes,
Yes.
getting free alcohol tonight at the bar. Thanks to the owners. Yeah, we're not gonna invite the new guy, but screw him. But we did a good job today.
Oh,
First round's on the company. But I digress. I digress. Yeah, no. We went dark. I'm just waiting.
man.
I'm just waiting for Dark Side of the Ring. The whole season is going to be dedicated to Vince. Oh, it's going to be insane.
So I had a theory that someday somebody would win an Oscar playing Kevin Von Erich, and I was wrong. I do think Bradley Cooper's Oscar is in playing Vince McMahon.
Oh man,
Yep.
Bradley Cooper, Vince McMahon. I think my. Oh my god.
Yep.
Oh my
That's
god.
where his Oscar is.
The real question is that will Jennifer Lawrence play Linda?
Jennifer Lawrence is way too charismatic to play Linda. Like I have, like I was just shocked that Stephanie and Shane came from her because like just like no like the anti charisma that person.
Apparently, Stephanie's now involved in this shit too. The only good person out of this whole thing is Shane.
I
It's crazy. This whole thing is insane and it's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, you can't make this shit up. It's
so
unbelievable.
like behind the music, that VH1 show where they would do documentaries on celebrities, on musicians. It's always like Aerosmith was on top of the world, but then everything came crashing down, and then come back and it's drugs and sex and all these things. I watched a behind the music esque thing on sports. Being a St. Louis guy, my hero was Ozzie Smith, who was the Cardinal shortstop. So I was watching this documentary on him, and they're going to commercials. They're like, Ozzie Smith was on top of the world, and then it all came crashing down. I'm like, oh no, what did he have? Did he kill a hooker? Or is there a drug problem I don't know about? And they come back from commercials, and they're like, whenever Ozzie Smith was on the road, his kids would miss him. I was like, oh thank God. Okay, is that the worst thing that happened? Like this Vince McMahon, like I'm telling you, this Bradley Cooper Vince McMahon movie that's going to be 3 hours long and rated NC-17, all the Oscars for him. Although I do worry if the Academy, when Bradley Cooper comes walking to the ring like this, if they're going to be like, that's ridiculous, he would never do that, when in fact he absolutely did. They'd be like, the scene where he tore both of his quads in the Royal Rumble was not believable. Be like, no, that actually happened. The scene where he almost beat up Bob Costas, I didn't buy that for 1 second. No, he really did. He really did.
I mean, oh my god, who would play Linda? I mean, who can play Linda?
I don't know. We got that like a block of wood potentially would be a good Linda.
Who? I mean, Charlie, what? Thrice or Thrizen or
You're aiming way too high. Charlize Theron is way too good to play Linda McMahon.
no. See, I think she can do it though because
I think they could. I think it's a waste of a charismatic actress.
no, but have you seen her in Fast like 10 and 11? Like she's so calm and like she can play Linda. Like I'm telling you, you get to pick. You can pick Vince. I'll pick Linda.
All
And
right.
I'm telling you, watch this. You're gonna be like, oh my god, that's Linda McMahon. What the fuck, man? Like this is better than Bradley. People are gonna say there's only we who's gonna win the best actor or actress, and it's gonna be Vince the movie. And it's gonna be like, is it Bradley? Is it Charlie? Is it Bradley? Is it Charlie? Or who gets to play Stephanie? And this is the whole problem.
Yeah. I just imagine Charlize when they do the scenes of, them blowing $100 million on a failed political campaign. If she can get across the emotion of the
I'm
disappointment.
telling you, she can do it. She can do it.
Because that's the weird thing is that like she was so interested in politics. Is that a thing where she's like, all right, I'll let my husband be a horrible piece of garbage as long as he blows $200 million on getting me into office? Is that the deal she made?
To office. She was a small business administrator. Yeah. She was good at her job. She was good. She was good.
Yeah.
Like seriously. You could say a lot of things about the Trump era. That the women he picked, the two of them, they were fantastic. They were some of the best people in politics.
I'm just talking about the money they spent in Connecticut trying to get her into office.
Oh,
like 2 failed self-funded political campaigns. It was something
I agree.
like 180 million.
Or something. It was rough. It was rough.
Charlize Theron would get elected twice in Connecticut. I'm telling you.
I know because I live in Connecticut.
Oh, do you? You're like, I definitely would have voted for. Did you vote for Linda McMahon?
I didn't. I was in New York at the time.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up in Yorktown and Westchester, and then I moved to DC. I was working in government, and then my contract was up, and then I moved back to Connecticut and expanded a business and lived with my parents. And I had no problem saying that because sometimes in life things don't work out the way you want them to, and I'm fixing problems in my life piece by piece. But again, I'm 31, and if my parents can help take off some of my rent bill while I figure out my life and figure out a business, my parents still love me. And so you have to use every advantage. And sometimes advantages don't look pretty, but sometimes they will make you millions and millions of dollars in the long run. So I'd rather live with people saying, oh, no, you're with your parents. Yeah, but I'll be financially free in a year and a half. So, and I'll have a business and I have assets in my business that are worth a lot of money. So I don't know. It's kind of like, the guy who owns 7 Dunkin' Donut franchises and he's living in his basement under his parents' roof. He looks a little weird and he looks not so great to the girl he's dating until she finds out that he has 7 Dunkin' Donut franchises. Then he looks really good.
That would be the way to my heart is if you could get me free glazed donuts, I'm in. Like that's how you woo me.
You need a sweet tea and some donuts, man. Oof, you're good. You're golden.
I can't have sweet tea anymore. I used to be the biggest Southern sweet tea fan, but then I transitioned to less sweet drinks. I can't do it anymore.
I have a vice, and then my only vice is that I need a Monster every day. I can't function without a Monster, and that stuff's bad for you.
Oh, I do the same, the Mountain Dew Kickstart. Do you know same ballpark?
Oh yeah. I know that. Yeah,
it's bad. To the point I wonder if I'm addicted.
I don't know if I'm addicted, but I used to do 2 Monsters a day. I cut it down to 1 because I figured out that if I start drinking my Monster half an hour late, I don't need the second one.
Okay, your heart's beating out of your chest.
Oh no, fella! Gotta get back in.
You're like, I gotta get back. But yeah, the Mountain Dew Kickstart. It's not. It's the fruit punch flavor. I realized I could have them delivered to my home on Amazon, and That was kind of like the thing I
See,
started doing during COVID and then did not stop doing.
but what I want is that I need a sponsorship from Monster, right? And
Mhm.
instead of them paying me, they should just send me
Just send a couple
monsters
cases.
for free.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you why. It would be worth it more if they just said, dude, we'll just send you 20,000 cans of Monster. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, I'm in. I'm in. That'd be great. They could put it right up here where it says Conversations in Pop Culture. It could be Conversations in Pop Culture brought to you by Monster.
Yeah. We're not above that.
I'm telling you, it would pay for itself.
Send me a picture of 20,000 cans of Monster. I'm interested. That feels like that would fill a garage, right?
Probably.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, it would last me what, like 2 years? No, it would last me longer than that. This is what would happen. This is what would happen is that I'd be like, guys, don't have a party. You get a monster. You get a monster. You just start throwing monsters like Peyton Manning throwing a football. Oh, it'd be great.
We did one of the things I do is I'm on the advisory board for a nonprofit called Gold Star Gamers, and what they do is they raise money to help they help children that have lost a military parent, and I was with them. We had a booth in Atlanta for a gaming trade show, and Monster was there and just hands out free energy drinks all day long. And the woman that runs it is she's awesome. Like it's such a worthwhile cause. But there was no good way to get coffee. It was so weird. Like we're in a convention center. There's no convenient way, no Starbucks, no nothing. So she's like, well, let me try one of these. And we're like, okay, but just know it's different. And by the end of that weekend, she was like 3 a day. She'd be like, are you guys going to the floor? Can anybody pick me up a strawberry surprise or whatever flavor? I don't know what flavor it was. So like that's how they get you. They give them to you for free and then they jack up the price.
Oh man, my monsters cost me like $2.50 a pop.
Yeah.
But it's cheaper than other things. I can tell you that.
That is accurate, Andrew. There are more expensive vices.
There's a lot of expensive vices. I would know because I've done a bunch of them. Except my alcohol vice isn't that expensive. So my Friday night I just get hammered and then I talk about movies and wrestling with all my friends. Oh, this week we're doing the A-Team. It's gonna be fantastic.
That's not bad. The movie or the TV show?
Oh, the movie. It's gonna be great.
Speaking of Bradley Cooper, that's not a bad movie.
Yeah, I'm halfway through, and I gotta say, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
I mean,
I think you assumed like they're remaking an '80s TV show. No, I actually enjoyed it.
It's great. It's great.
The guy who would win an Oscar playing Vince McMahon.
He should. It would be great. We should write the script. We should just start writing it right now. We should just be like, we're gonna write this thing. So humble beginnings, and we'll have Vince on the mic and Bradley Cooper on the mic, like in his like small little promotion, and then we'll have him. We'll have like a graphic. We'll do it like in the Big Short style. Oh, it'll be great.
Yeah, that's gonna be. I love Big Short. That's a great movie.
Oh, that was fantastic.
I've never been so mad and like so enjoying a movie at the same time.
Oh my God. I wish so. I wasn't old enough, right? I love money. I love stocks. I love shorting things. I should have shorted First Republic Bank. I would have made a killing.
The guy who that's about, the one that Batman plays. I'm awful with names.
Michael Burry.
No, is that the name of the guy that
that's the investor, Christian Bale.
Yeah, Christian Bale. He got into GameStop before GameStop blew up.
You mean Michael Burry?
Yes. Because I remember reading about
the actor.
Michael, whoever the actual investor is.
Yes.
Got into GameStop because I remember reading because like
you know that he was on YouTube telling people to buy GameStop.
Yeah.
Before it went big, right?
Yeah.
He outlined the whole play, right?
Yeah. And it was a thing where it's like I saw it like I follow stocks. I own stocks. I play the market, and I had seen he was buying GameStop, and I'm like, why? But didn't know that he was going on the side. I'm like, why? Like GameStop seems like a dead company. Why would you like being the gaming lead for Comcast, knowing that like everything's going digital and etc. So I'm like, but part of me is like, he was right before. So there was a part of my I was like, maybe I should get in on this, and then did not, of course, because
I told everybody to buy L Brands, which was Bath and Body Works and Victoria's Secret, and they were in some financial political issues that they got them in trouble, which sunk their share price down to like $7 a share. Bought a bunch of that, and then they slowly started coming back out, and then they had a stock spin up between the two. Victoria's Secret's Bath and Body Works, 758% return,
Hmm. Yeah.
because the spinoff for Bath and Body Works was at 64, and Victoria's Secret had a $58 spinoff per share. Meanwhile, you got 25 shares, you're getting like 10 shares of Victoria's Secret at $58. It's $580 that you didn't have, and the Bath and Body Works spins off at 64. You're getting a lot of money for at $7.
Yeah.
So you're turning $140 into almost like $1,200. Like, guys, and people say you're wrong. Netflix, same deal. Bought at 227, it's almost at 600. I bought Bitcoin starting at 16K.
Oh wow.
Bitcoin is at 63 right now.
Yeah, it hit 64 today, didn't it? And then it
yesterday it was almost at 69,000. Everybody said you're wrong, Andrew. You're wrong. And this is the story of my advice, and this is why I stopped giving it out on social media. Because every time I say this is what's going to happen, nobody listens. And I'm like, great. Like, I get made fun of, and I'm like, cool. This is why all the smart people shut up.
That is actually very true. But yeah, you can't say GameStop around me without me getting a little bit pissed off.
I wasn't going to touch it. I
know, because it didn't. Like, I'm like, this is a horrible company. Like part of my brain's like, he might be like, he was right before, but then part of me is like, no, this is a horrible mistake.
I can tell you what's going on with Disney. That's interesting.
Oh, what's that?
Disney is right now in an internal board fight with some of their biggest investors who want board seats. And the board basically said that we want to get voted back in as a board. So we're going to increase our dividend by 50%, and we're going to buy 3.3 billion shares back, which means that they are going to artificially increase the stock price. So if you had a feeling that was coming, the best play is to buy Disney and hold it for 3 months for a short term, and then just flip it for an increase of 25 to $30 a share. Easy. Again, though, everybody says, oh, because every time I have a conversation with people, they're like, Disney ruined Star Wars. Disney's losing money left and right. I'm like, but that's not what a stock is based on.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's the same thing, TKO. I mean, I understood WWE really well, and I understand UFC. UFC took the Bud Light sponsorship deal because they have refinancing debt coming up of $3.3 billion notes. Again, people don't understand why companies do what they do. All I do is I read their K-1099 forms. All the information on all these companies is free.
Sure.
What you have to do is read. Getting rich in America is so easy. It's so easy.
That's why I'm so excited that you're going to fund the print run of The Bad Guy. So I appreciate that.
I probably could fund it if I wanted to. I mean, it would depend on the terms, right?
Yeah,
like,
I could too. I just, like I said, it's
no. What would, if we were to seriously do it, we would come with a battle plan on where to sell it. So there's about 10 wrestling cons that you would have to be at, because that's the place you would sell your book. And then we would do variants specifically for those cons that would cater to the market, and we'd figure out price points, and we'd actually do an analysis and economic analysis. This isn't hard once you start going down this position.
Yeah.
If I wanted to really do a business venture and do it right, so that we actually have a company, or you have a company, because I don't know if I don't know if I want to invest.
I don't know if I want to get in the wrestling comic book business.
But what you're in the business of saying, I have a product and how do I market?
Yeah.
And that's all this is. But again, you guys say, look, it's a lot of work for a little bit of money, but it is what it is. I have way too little time right now.
My God.
I can give you advice. I can tell you what to do. I just don't want to do it.
So like, I'm not going to get rich off this, so it's not like are we still in the air? So not gonna I'll do what I can. I'm not gonna bend over backwards, because again,
that's the point. Is that if you spent $20 and you figured out how to do Facebook ads and you did some targeting on that, you could get $100 on 20. And if you did that every single month and you really played around with it, that's minimal effort, right?
Right.
It'll take you about an hour, and then you're generating traffic. And what you hope for is that you go to your page and you make a Facebook page or a group, you run some ads, and then maybe you pump in $10 every single month. You spend $120, and the goal is to get $30 back.
Yeah. The thing is, it's there's no great hook. Like I'm very proud of it. I think it's a great story, but like I haven't been able to find like that elevator pitch that makes someone care about it. And maybe this is a little too inside baseball for this, but it's just like this isn't the thing. Like I love it. I hope people read it. I hope they enjoy it. Like I've gotten amazing feedback about it, but like I'm taking what I'm learning from this one into the next one.
No. Sometimes I know I have the interview, and sometimes I know I don't.
Hmm.
And I know when I strike gold. With investing, I knew with Netflix I struck gold. I knew it, and I knew it before. And even when it went down from 227 to 197, I'm like, I know I struck gold. I don't need to pretend that I didn't strike gold. I knew it, and I was right. I know what the future looks like. When I bought Bitcoin at 16K, I knew I struck gold. And then people didn't realize it, and that's it. But I digress. You've been
Yeah.
speaking for a while. Do you want to give you a chance to promote yourself?
No, I love how diverse this conversation was. Like it's like I
This is
came.
what happens on my Friday nights.
They were like, okay, I want to hear this guy talk about wrestling and Survivor, and then his comic book, and then let's talk about stocks for a little bit. Oh, he did musical theater. Let's talk about that for a little bit.
I
I love it. Oh my goodness, this has been a lot of fun, Andrew.
appreciate that.
What time is it? Oh my god,
No,
you're East Coast. Where'd you say you're in Connecticut?
I'm in Connecticut.
All right.
I legitly got home at 7 o'clock. I did my first interview. I didn't even eat my dinner yet
Oh geez.
because I just jumped right in because I normally get home at around 6:30, but it was wet and rainy. And when it's wet and rainy, there was just more traffic because people
Mhm.
were driving slow. So I said, cool, I'm going to jump right into doing all my interviews tonight. And I'm like, I guess this is what it looks like. But I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. It's fine. I'll
No,
figure
no.
out something. I'll probably eat some brownies or something, and then probably just have, and then I'll probably go to sleep. So it'll be fine. But promote yourself. Where can people
Yeah.
find you, follow you, all that fun stuff?
Oh my god. So yeah, The Bad Guy, the wrestling comic book that will make you cry is available at legacycomics.com. That's comics with an X. Also, my Survivor press is available, and the Survivor Power Rankings every Thursday. Exit interview with whoever's voted out Wednesday. Every Monday, a Survivor game I play with former players this season, playing against Austin, Drew, everybody from the Reba Four, except for Dia, who's doing Jeff Probst's podcast, squaring off against me and Owen Knight and Franny Marin. And then on Exit. No, I'm sorry.
Where can that be found?
That's all on YouTube. Just search for Gordon Holmes. And then I do an episode recap every Wednesday that's available at gordonholmes.substack.com. And I think that's it. That's all the stuff. That's what I do.
And then I'm just gonna keep saying it. You gotta support people you enjoy. Obviously, YouTube, social media. You could watch a video. It's very supportive. Following people on social media goes a long way. Buying people's books, that helps too. And so definitely do that. As far as I'm concerned, I am Pop Anime Comics on Twitter. I am Pop Anime Comics on Instagram. Pop Anime Comics on Facebook. Pop Anime Comics on TikTok. If I didn't already mention it, Pop Anime Comics on YouTube. I said that twice, but that's all right. I am Pop Anime Comics Collectibles on eBay, or you could do this instead, where you could just go to that URL right there. And if you're looking for comics and collectibles, come shop with us on eBay. This cute little elf will greet you very pleasantly.
That's a sexy elf, David Drew.
Yeah.
Good job, David.
He didn't draw the elf. He touched it up a little bit. Somebody else,
Okay.
Migs, who does a lot of work for a bunch of wrestlers and design shirts through the elf. He touched it up and he added some cool stuff to it and some variations to it, like the 4th of July flag, a pumpkin, Christmas. Very cute. But he definitely cleaned it up a little bit as well, because sometimes you have to clean things up. But very cool in that regard. And as I was stating, though, that's my eBay store. And if you are looking for some cool stuff, I have this right here in my store. I have all 15 of those in hollow foil. Very cool book. I have all 15 of these. Very cool book. And then I have some other very cool books out there that are coming. I got a few more. I just bought a Rogue, 10 of them out of the 25. So I have 40% of that book's print run in my possession. I have Starfire, a version of her, holofoil, all 15 of those. I have a Shikari. And so I got a lot of cool stuff. And I am doing my first Whatnot show this Friday. And very cool books are coming there. So definitely stop by if you're interested in that. I got some good prices. So this round is Shikari, Taylor Swift, and Mirko. So I will say this, and I will be very, very nice about this. In 2 weeks, this will only be on Whatnot, and my Whatnot store is on eBay right now. But in 2 weeks, I'm actually taking it off my eBay store, and it will only be on Whatnot. So if you want to get it on eBay, that's where you want to get it. Otherwise, you can buy it from me on Whatnot. Otherwise, that's where it's going to stay. And I don't know what I'm going to do with the other stuff when it comes in, but that's you never know. And finally, I also have this card, but some people are telling me it's really hard to see. So if you can't see it, I understand. I didn't see anything. Did you see anything?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
That's the problem. I opened up the package it came in, and I'm like, what the hell, guys? I can't see it. And like, we can't see it either, and we're very confused. But that's all I got, and I'm going to give you the final word.
Check out the bad guy. And Andrew, thank you so much for your time. This has been a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, anytime. And I believe everybody that is a wrap.